It is your Wednesday night sports delight. Wait a minute. Hold on. It's almost gone. Bam. There we go. The platform sports talk show. I am your boy Smoooth.
Along with your girl Bunny.
And Jobo.
When it's about sports,
it becomes our business, does it?
And Jobo, what you got to say for him?
It changes all the time. Well, business just continues to pick up.
There it is. Welcome out to another show, y'all. Happy Wednesday. Happy platform sports talk show day. Happy your Wednesday night sports delight day. Yes, and it's hot here in the Lou, people. It is hot like fire. Rest in peace. What's been 20 years now to Aaliyah. Ain't that crazy? 20 years now? She's been gone?
Yeah. Yeah, been 20 years in August 2001. I remember when I got the news. I was at a college party.
Man, I was.
Did you hear it? I'm like, no, what happened?
Man, I was at my late grandmother's house watching the Cubs play a team. I don't know who they played. And all of a sudden, like one of the announcers just like said, man, just heard some sad news about R&B star Aaliyah. I'm like, huh? What are you talking about? And then I went like to CNN and BET and MTV and they said what happened. I was like, no, this is unbelievable. So, yeah, it's crazy. 20 years ago, I think as of yesterday, was her passing. So, crazy how time flies, man. But, hey, once again, thanks for everyone for tuning in to another edition of the Platform Sports Talk Show. 4 years strong, consistently every Wednesday. For those watching for the first time, thank you very much. We appreciate it. We going strong. We've been having incredible guests, and it does not stop tonight. Last week, had an incredible show. We had Justin Tatum on the show, father of Jason Tatum. The interview was just bananas. Definitely enjoyed. He enjoyed himself. We enjoyed ourselves. Great interaction, a lot of great views. So when you go on social media, definitely got to check out us on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. But when you get to YouTube, you have to subscribe, click on that. Wait a minute. She ain't ready. Wait a minute.
Click on that bell, baby. I got you.
There we go. There we go. Because anytime we go live, Joe,
you will be notified.
There we go. Ladies, how y'all doing this evening?
It's hot.
Man.
I got fans on in the house. It's like 80 degrees in our house right now. I'm dying. It's brutal, but we're good. We're here. I'm excited for tonight's show.
Yes. Bunny?
Even though it's hot, I don't complain because literally, in 3 months, we're going to be wearing coats.
Hiya.
Oh, my God.
Hi, Sasha.
For the background noise. Your time to shine, not to the end of the show.
Hiya.
What's happening? How you doing?
You see how yes, that's you, baby. That's Sasha. Sorry, I'm wearing 2 hats right now. Just say hi. I didn't get off the camera.
There we go.
Okay, anyway, go ahead.
Hi and bye. So, shouts out to our faithful follower, Miss Williams. She says, hi, Fred. Hi, Bunny. Hi, Joe.
Hey, Miss Williams.
She's on early. I know she said she, went back to, I think, Bible study or something on Wednesdays. And she normally kind of gets in like around 8 o'clock, 8:30 hours. So she here early. But she says last week was an amazing show. And unfortunately, her AC went out today. So it's kind of, well, I'm not sure if it was today, but her AC went out. So it's kind of warm here. So prayers that everything gets taken care of very soon for you. Because, here in St. Louis, it's not no joke. Around
you it melts in this type of heat.
I'm telling you.
Straight up melt.
Man. And see, I'm chocolate, so that chocolate melt, baby. You know what I'm saying? Be outside for a certain time, man. It's like, okay, let me find some shade real quick. Miss Williams says, waiting for the AC company to call with an appointment, hopefully tomorrow. Yeah, we definitely hope so, too. For those watching once again for the first time, thank you. We appreciate it. Hit that like. If you're on Facebook, hit the shares. On Twitter, retweet. We want to get as many people tuned in, get the views going. And, make sure y'all check the banner on the bottom. We're going to have some information throughout the show so you can know how to do certain things. Like, for instance, you see right now, if you're on Facebook, you have to comment under the Platform Sports Talk Show page. So just like Miss Williams post, you're going to be seen all across the globe, y'all. Y'all going to be famous today messing with the Platform Sports Talk Show. So get ready. You have all the instructions. You have all of our social media information. Ain't no excuses, y'all. We about to get it in with another great show. Let's go ahead, ladies, and start things right on off. Yesterday, it was announced that this man on the screen, Yadier Molina, has agreed to the final dance, the last dance. Look at the jersey. There, hold on. Look at the jersey by Joe. There we go. She rocking it, y'all.
The goat rapping.
She rocking it. But yes, he did announce yesterday that he is returning.
Is that his bobblehead?
This is known.
Oh, his known.
That's the known, right? Yeah, so he is returning for one last dance for the Cardinals. Be one of the rare guys to be able to finish his career from start to finish with one team, which I know we all believe for St. Louis fans, that's very, very important to us to have that guy to be there from day one. I mean, pretty much as soon as he catches his last game, whether it's in the regular season or hopefully in the postseason of next season, that the next day after, he should go ahead and get the red jacket and hit the number. Yeah. Go ahead and just do it now. Get it out the way because it's a no-brainer. But ladies.
Well, wait. Speaking of that, what are your thoughts about Hall of Fame? Not the St. Louis Cardinals Hall of Fame.
Oh, that's a no-brainer. That's a no-brainer.
You're saying it's a no-brainer, but what do y'all think? Because, of course, offensively, you don't have the stats, but defensively and then some. But you know how some of these writers have been lately, so I don't know if offensive like people.
For a catcher.
Now, see, a couple of years ago, it was a big debate about him and stuff like that. But now, all that has changed. The narrative has changed over these last 2 or 3 years. So now it's a no-brainer to me. It's him. Yeah. If at all, to me, hopefully it works out like this: that him, Pujols, and Wainwright all retire, at the same year. Now, Wainwright may not go into the Hall of Fame, but at least Pujols and Molina should at the same time go into the Hall of Fame. Both the Cardinals and MLB.
He still probably has a chance at reaching 200 wins. 200 wins as a pitcher, that's pretty big. He doesn't have all the gaudy numbers, and that sucks because he was on his way to that with he tore his Achilles in 2015, I think it was, something like that, and that really, put a bump in his career. But a couple of years ago, I remember we were watching him in San Diego. It was rough, the guy could barely even make it off the field, and he's been dominant the last couple of years. 2018, 2019, and 2020, and now he's been really good. I think it's eye-opening. It's not just against the Pirates. I went through the numbers. He's got 11 quality starts, I think, this year, and that's not all against the Pirates. That's good quality teams.
Yeah, I mean, Wainwright is actually in the talks of potential Cy Young the way he's been dealing this year. I mean, he just been amazing. My only issue, and I'm going to have a few little maybe hot takes or whatever, tonight. I just had to go ahead and do it. The good news is, like you said, Wainwright, he's been our best pitcher. The bad news is Wainwright has been our best pitcher. You know what I'm saying?
Let's say vintage Waino has reemerged. However, why is he our best pitcher and he's like a 20-year vet? Like, what is going on here?
Right.
We probably have guessed that going into the year. I mean, Flaherty didn't have a great year last year. It was a weird year for everyone. And now he's potentially just done for the year now, which it sucks. But I mean, I think the season's over with regardless. Like, I'm gonna sit here and pray Padres and Reds keep losing games, But I mean, you don't have Jack Flaherty. And, they might as well shut him down because you want him for next year. So, but I mean, I think I said going into the year, Wainwright, you're eighth going into it. And that's just who he is. He's maybe not vintage Waino like he was early on in his career, but he's rediscovered himself in a different way, and he's vintage Waino at 40 years old.
So my issue is, so we see how well Wainwright has been pitching. Mm-hmm. My thing is, as a team, as a collective, how come we're not seeing what he's doing rub off to his teammates. You know what I'm saying? It's like you around this guy every freaking day for 6 months. Why isn't more of what he's doing rubbing off to the other guys so they can know how to compete and how to think differently the way he does from batter to batter? How you know, Joe, because you've been a catcher. It's a game of chess. You know what I'm saying? Every opportunity you get as a pitcher, it's a game of chess. Every matchup. How come we're not seeing more of other guys saying, Wainwright, what are you doing differently that I can do? You know what I'm saying? What's going on there?
I mean, I know that I think they are. Like, you heard it on Wednesdays with Wayno, I think, last week about all the guys talking the days that they're not pitching. They're definitely talking, asking, how do you throw a cutter this way, this and that, etc. But it's easier for Wayno now because he's not saying, I have 99 in my back pocket, but I'm just going to throw 80. Or, Wayno, that's just what he's got now. It's much easier said than done for him. Flaherty can't go out there and just throw 80 on the black, and you know what I'm saying? Like, now these kids these days, they just have nothing but velocity, and they're not pitching like Wayno. Wayno's actually pitching. He knows how to control and everything. These guys are just throwing the ball now, and that's just the game these days. It's Wayno. He's just a vintage type of person. He's been in the league for a long time. You can see Lester kind of do that too now. He's not as good as he used to be, but him and Hath and LeBlanc, those type of pitchers are kind of doing that. Then you got all these young kids like Cabrera and stuff. It's hard for them to pinpoint it because they're just throwing so fast.
So, going back to what you said earlier too, because you actually stole a little bit of my thunder, but I'm in the same boat as you. I have officially given up on this team for this season, and this is something I've been saying since freaking April. This team has just shown over the last few years. It doesn't matter if you add Arenado, but it's still the inconsistencies of this team. We can't get the pitching and the hitting to be on the same page. Harrison Bader had a great July, had me on the show saying, Bader, I was wrong. You know what I'm saying? You are the guy. But now I got to take that back because it's like, what happened? Now you're back to what you were before. And it's something that you said a while back that is maybe just true. Is that he's going to be better when he doesn't have to be the focal point of being productive. If he had other guys around him that was doing their jobs or being productive, then Bader can go ahead and be batting 155, and we wouldn't care because we just care about his defense. But because we don't have enough guys on the team who can produce, like the Yankees. From one through 9, they got guys who can produce. So if one guy was off, they ain't gonna be worried about him slumping, because he got defense. But Bader is different because he has to do something, since nobody else or not the whole team around him is doing more. So,
can you say that Bader has improved since he came off the injury list this time around?
For 1 month, that's the problem.
Hey. Small wins. Got to take the small wins. I'm just saying.
You know what happened, though? Is
what?
The BFIB was saying, you need to move him up in the lineup. Schilt moved him up one spot.
Right.
One spot.
And he ain't been the same.
And people want this guy to lead off. No.
He's not a leadoff hitter.
He's a
no.
7-8 batter. Next year, he's going to be an 8-9 batter. That's where he needs to be. And then I'll go back to what I've been saying for months now. It's not on this team. It's not on Schilt. It's on the front office to get better players on this team. That's just how it is, I mean, it sucks to say it. Like, all of us were so excited from the beginning of this year. On paper, this team was good to start the year off. They had a good first 2 months. They were in first place for 2 months. But then it's just injuries after injuries and inconsistencies. So, I mean, they got a lot of work to do, that's for sure. Like, I'm still going to watch.
Of course. Right. Same here. I'll watch every game. Yeah.
Walk in a runner with bases loaded, all that stuff's gonna make me mad and everything. But if they make the playoffs somehow, some way, that's just what the Cardinals do. That the Reds and the Padres will keep losing, and we'll miss the playoffs by 1 game or something, like I said. And then we're gonna be sitting there, they're having us hanging on. That's just what they do. Mm-hmm. Hopefully they do something in the off season, but I'm not holding my breath on that either. I
told Brennan the last 4 years about doing something in the off season. Other than that was the only big time impact that they did in the off season. Other than that, nothing for real.
Yeah, I told Brennan today, I was like, obviously we need to get one of those shortstops that are going to be out there. Like, that's the main focal point right now. But I told him, I was like, I bet all my Pokemon cards we ain't going to get a single one of those guys. it's not going to happen, you know? Like, they don't spend money like that.
And see...
So Lindor and Javi Baez are going to get a lot. I mean, Lindor did get a lot of money.
Right.
He's one of the top shortstops in the game and has been, but he's been in New York and not in the Midwest, and he hasn't really shown much yet. So,
and see, I brought that up on shouts out to Tom Ackerman and Kevin Wheeler on a KMOX show they have. I mentioned this on his show, and it showed on the screen. I'm like, yeah, I'm big time. But I was just saying that two things I said. We don't have enough winning players. And when I say that, that means guys who can be consistent throughout the year being productive. It's too many guys who are worried about, oh, my God, ain't no fans in the stands, or they can't handle the pressure. Remember I said this last week, Joe. Remember I said how certain guys, and Bunny, how I said certain guys can't handle the pressure of playing at certain places and maybe playing in front of Busch Stadium where these fans are dying to see better baseball. They put too much pressure on themselves to perform and perform well. And then it affects the game because you try to do too much. Instead of doing the bare minimum, the easy thing. Like last night, I watched that Reds and Brewers game. And it was like the Brewers were down, I want to say
4-1.
Yeah, 4-1. And they had bases loaded. And what they do, you had a one man one man hitting out to the outfield, sacrifice fly. Another man did the same thing, sacrifice fly. It's the small things. And then, like you said, the base hit down the right field line, scored everybody in, and then all of a sudden they got a lead. But the Cardinals, we get bases loaded. First pitch. What happens, Joe?
Well, if it's Nato, it's a pop-up.
Exactly. Pop-up or weak ground ball. Can no one advance? It's the small things.
Or if we have bases loaded, because y'all know this happened, I don't know what series it was. It's just this last few days, because I was talking to my daddy. I'm like, why aren't they aggressive? It was 0 outs, bases loaded. Why are we advancing 2 people home? Nothing else, one will be out, but at least you tried, right? Because we know how hard runs are supposed to be with the team. They're hard to get.
Well, for us, it is.
You let them sit on third base, and then the person didn't go home. Like, you could have ran both. That frustrates me. That why aren't they aggressive enough? And you know your season's on the line. Who the hell is the third base coach? So this is the second time in a week I saw that. I'm like, what the hell is he doing?
Papa Warner. Yeah, Papa Warner. Yeah.
Is it me? Am I tripping?
No.
Because I'm like, y'all got nothing to lose. If you'll be out, fine. At least you two got one run in and you tried because, and they keep doing it. They're not aggressive on the bases up to me. Again, at this part of the season, we need anybody to get on base to advance to get the next person because we do not advance runners home like we should.
Yeah.
And they'll show like glimpses of that here and there, you know. They'll try to do the whitey ball thing. But it'll be like a game here and there, and that's about it. But, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, there's a lot of things that need to be fixed. I don't think that some of the people that complain about certain things on Twitter, like Yachty batting 5-hole, that's not a problem. If the guys in front of him do their job, then that's not a problem. You know what I'm saying? Like, and again, if you have better people on your team, that's also not a problem. Or you got people who complain about Schilt. Schilt's using what he's got, you know? Like, are there some things that you might want to question with maybe a bullpen move? Yeah, but every team or every fan base complains about that. The Astros complain about Dusty Baker constantly, and guess what? They're in the West in first place. They're probably going to be in the LCS. You know, every team complains about that stuff.
And my second thing was the old Cardinal way is dead. You can't depend on trying to spend cheap money or get a hometown discount or, well, this is St. Louis. We have 16, 17 championship banners. Okay, that's in the past. What are you doing now to attract guys to want to come to St. Louis and play? You have to start spending money. That's going to be it. You cannot be like, you guys, we just have to look at our budget and see how things. No, you build it with whoever. It's time.
What it takes
It's time for a new and revitalized Cardinal way of doing things.
You know what Build It With needs, and Mosaic like it's not that person. Not saying change roles, but what the Cardinals are doing is equivalent or parallel to what the Lakers were doing. Y'all remember the Kobe's last year, and they were trying to recruit LaMarcus Aldridge and bait him. It's like LA, we got all these championship banners.
Nobody wanted to go.
I'm good. I don't care. It's LA. I'm good. You know, that's a championship winning organization, the best in the league, and he wanted to pass up on it. And it's just like, oh shoot. Well, what do we need to do to get better to getting players out here? Now, LeBron, of course, went out there, but it wasn't only because of the Lakers organization. It was, for his son being out there at school, too. But since he's out there, Russ Westbrook is there. AD out there.
Right.
That takes one, and then everybody else will come. But you got to have a reason for somebody to come out there, though.
And guess what?
That Lakers way didn't do it the first time around.
And guess what? Another example, the New York Knicks. Remember how years ago, no free agents wanted to go there. But now because they just had a great season, they went to the playoffs. Now you're starting to see little free agents are starting to see New York Knicks as a destination again because they're starting to see a change. They're starting to see a winning culture. Right now, the Cardinals organization is like bland grandpa style baseball, and it's not appealing to certain guys who have a certain flair for the game. For instance,
there's gonna be more and more guys like this, newer generation.
Exactly.
Along.
Like for instance, remember doing the Cardinals and Brewers series, how they talked about how Colton Wong feels so much free now that he's with Milwaukee.
I call bullshit on that, by the way. Sorry for my language.
Hey, sometimes you gotta let it go. But now they saying he's having like the best hard hit rate he's ever had in his career. Numbers don't lie. He did have his flair with the Cardinals, but it seems like there may be a little bit more. Like they're giving him more access to, I don't know, just use his game to a even greater level than what he did with the Cardinals. But what do you say to that, Joe?
What you're seeing Colton Wong do right now is, on the Wong part, is what he did since Matheny left. We can all agree that Mike Matheny was the weight on Colton Wong's shoulders.
True.
Ever since he left, Wong's had flair. He's been all over the place. His own wristbands, sweatbands, everything, posting ads and stuff on his Instagram, everything. So, again, I call BS on the Brewers announcer saying, now Colton Wong wears yellow shoes. He did that with the Cardinals.
Yeah, he had gold shoes on with us.
Yeah, okay. But, I don't know, I thought it was funny that everyone was complaining about Yachty getting $10 million to come back for one more year. Like I said, Nolan Arenado doesn't come to St. Louis if Yadier Molina's in here.
Right. He's
someone that people want to come and play with. Nolan Arenado, it's silly for us to say that he's having a down year. He's going to have 40 doubles, 30 homers, 80-plus RBIs. He's going to be fine at the end of the year. It's going to look like a normal year for him. He just needs to be better, I think, for us. But that's someone people want to play with. He shows passion, this and that. You got Carlson, I think he's the same way. If O'Neill can, ever stay consistent and healthy, that might be another guy people want to play with. So I think we got some guys like that, but, maybe just get that one shortstop or that one other pitcher, and more people, start coming. The last couple of years, we've gotten the Goldschmidt and Arenado. It's not like they're not doing things, they're just not doing their full job. Like I've said before, they're doing part of their job.
So today, it was announced that Nick Castellanos is going to opt out. Would he be someone that you would like to have on the team? And if so, whose spot would he take?
I mean, yeah, obviously, I think that would be great. It would be kind of stupid for me to say Bader's spot because, again, he brings that defense, or, have him as a DH. He's not the best outfielder.
Right.
He's played in the AL before. He can come over here, and he hits pretty well in the NL Central parks. So,
yeah.
I mean, that would be something. And if everyone's saying Albert Pujols, well, if you wanted to, you could do a platoon. So, something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Obviously, that doesn't work out as a DH with two righties, but you can figure something out with that. But, yeah, I mean, I would love him. He's obviously got fire. We've seen it all year long, He's got tons of fire. He's hitting the ball all over the place. Ever since he left Detroit, that's a very big ballpark. Ever since he left there, he's been hitting the ball like crazy, and it's showing. His offensive numbers are really showing.
Yeah.
Did Castellano say why he wants to opt out though?
No, he didn't say why. Well, I don't know.
How the organization treat him, or anything that we heard about in the background that you got beef with somebody, or
more money.
Where that money reside. That's what he wants. Okay.
He'll probably opt out and probably re-sign with the Reds just for more money. That's
right.
The more realistic thing that's gonna happen.
Yeah. I see that too. Yeah. So, and people, let us know your thoughts about the Cardinals, or if you have a different team around the country who you rooting for. Let us know in the comments. Don't be shy. This is what the show is all about. Our special guest will be joining us at 8:00. So. Get them likes, get them shares, and retweets going right now on the platform Sports Talk Show, because we have a whole lot to discuss. So, something I wanted to do last week, especially with having Stan here, but unfortunately he's not here tonight. He's rehearsing for a huge play that he's doing. But on the screen now, ladies, and y'all seeing it in a few seconds, our last few championships that we've had here in St. Louis, of course, was the Blues a couple years ago, the Cardinals back in 2011, and then the Rams back in the 99-2000 season. If you were a player, put yourself in this player's shoes. Which player would you have wanted to be during that moment? Would you have rather been Mike Jones with that game-saving tackle? Would you have rather been Pat Maroon with that game-winning goal to take the Blues to the finals? I'm sorry, to the Western Conference Finals, or would you want to be David Freese and hit that home run?
That's so tough.
That's I'm like do.
So I was very, very, very young during the Rams championship. So and then obviously baseball and hockey are my things. It's tough because they're both the hometown guys. Cardinals have won plenty of championships before those. So as much as I am a bigger baseball fan than hockey fan, I was at that Game 7 as just a fan, and that was one of the most amazing nights of my life. So I'm thinking Pat Maroon. Especially with
you were at the Western Conference Final game?
The double overtime game winner, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know you were there. Oh, wow. Dope.
I didn't talk for the 2 overtimes. I just sat here like this. Didn't talk to Brendan, nothing. He didn't talk to me. We had our own little juju thing going, and that was that. But yeah, it was amazing. And like I said, just as a fan being there, that was one of the best nights of my life. I can't imagine what that was like for Pat Maroon scoring against another hometown kid, Ben Bishop. To send us on to the next round. We've never won a cup before. Just everything about that year and that season was so magical. So I'm definitely going to go with Maroon.
Cool. Oh, still hard. Oh. Woo. Because when I tell you what Freeze did, y'all, I turned the TV off before he did that. Like when we was in the bottom of the 9th, so before it was extra innings, I couldn't take it. So I was too nervous, but
I was positive Joe back then. I was pumped.
I can't take. I hate it when it gets to me that bad. I'm like, I can't watch the defeat about to happen. Oh my gosh! But Mike Jones and that tackle again. I turned away and I didn't turn away because I'm like, I got faith in him. I want to say Mike Jones and that tackle. And shout out to Coach Mike Jones. And he's the head football coach at Smoooth High School now, too.
Yeah, that's what's up.
Mike Jones and that tackle. Because St. Louis, boy, when I say that put us back into sports highlights of us winning, because it was a while since we won a championship. Because the Cardinals didn't win. In 99, they went to the playoffs prior year. No, 2 years prior, but didn't win it all. But what the Rams did, and that just, I'm just saying. It's hard though, because think about hockey in 2019, the second half of the Blues season when they got together leading all the way to the Stanley Cup, because that was unheard of. Just like the Rams in that previous season was 4-12, and then they went only with 2 losses that year and won a Super Bowl. So they're actually kind of parallel, because it's almost like the previous year nobody would have thought, or first half of the season for the Blues, they could ever do what they did, and for the Rams from the previous year, like, oh, they're not gonna do this, and just like that. it's like Hollywood couldn't write a better script for either one of the organizations.
Right.
Oh, yeah. But
what about you, Fred?
Man, it's a tough one. It's in between Mike Jones and David Freese. But
David Freese, because she said Mike Jones.
I'm gonna go ahead and stick to my guns and stick with Mike Jones because of the meaning of that tackle. Now, it doesn't mean that, because let's say if the tackle didn't happen, they would have scored a touchdown, but they still would have needed 2 points to still tie the game up. So it wasn't like, okay, touchdown, game over, we lost. But just the magnitude of that moment to be like, I'm the reason why. I stopped you from reaching your goal of getting a touchdown because of what I did. You know what I'm saying? All the hard work that I put in, tackling drills, the whole nine. And for that moment where it's just man to man, you and me, can you get past me to get to heaven, pretty much? You know what I'm saying? I'm like the Grim Reaper going on here. But, yeah, just that moment. And, you know, like what Bunny said, the previous season we was 4-12. And then that season being so magical. But to have that moment where you were the sole reason that you won a freaking championship, I definitely have to go with Mike Jones. Miss Williams says,
yes, you can say that about David Freese, though.
Yeah,
he was the sole reason that entire playoff.
Yeah,
that guy was
exactly. He was on fire. Everybody was like, "Man, shoot, where this guy come from?" You like, man,
exactly. Who is this guy? Like Freese to me was almost equivalent to, if you parallel it back to the Rams, what Freese was doing was kind of like for the playoffs. We had so many weapons on the Rams, but Kurt Warner got put on a big stage because nobody was paying attention to the Rams. Remember the last few years they sucked, and they're like whatever. And then the greatest show on turf, you heard a little bit about Warner, but you knew about Falk, Bruce, and all that. But once he got the playoff, he was like, "Who is this guy? This is our quarterback that lead them to the Super Bowl. Like, this dude is dope." And Freese was like in the playoffs, just hit offensively. He was on it, and it was just like, again, St. Louis people like, who is this guy? It's like he's been on the team all season.
Right.
But they put him in a bigger limelight, you know, of course, you know, the playoffs. Everybody around the country talks about you.
Then you got Pat Maroon. That's like, he's just that gritty guy.
Yeah.
You know, he's not supposed to be the guy that scores the double overtime goal. You know, like he's just supposed to be there to smash some guys against the boards, chirp a little bit, and this and that. But he was the one that did it. And again, the fact that he was from St. Louis, that just made it that much better.
And it felt like, even though it was only the semis, it wasn't an actual conference final. But it felt like when he made that goal, it felt like it didn't matter who he was playing next round, we were still going to the Stanley Cup Finals. That's how magnified and how big that goal was. Is that it didn't matter if it didn't matter who it was the next round, we were gonna win because it was just destined for us to
I feel like
make
we
it.
had a goal in each round that was kind of like that. Like in the first round, that's hit by Jaden Schwartz in Winnipeg.
Right.
You got Pat Maroon, double overtime. For me in the Shark series, like you could say the hand pass is what did that. That like really magnifies everything. But for me, it's the Tarasenko shootout goal or penalty shot. You know, penalty shot, and then boom, boom, Gunnarsson, or even the Petro Game 7 goal in Boston. So, I mean, I feel like there's always that one goal that you can, you know, circle back to in every round that was really big.
Quick question. I'm not trying to digress from this topic because you just said Tarasenko. Has he already been traded? Or
Still
is he
there. Still there.
What's going on with that?
Okay.
I'm not saying I don't want to see him leave, but he wants to leave. So
yeah, we're gonna ask JR when he come up.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Continue.
So Ms. Williams says that she thanks Mike Jones because he truly won the Super Bowl for us. And she says she remembers when people were saying that about the Rams, the whole 99 season, like, who is that? You know, in regards to, you know, shoot, anybody for real, whether it was Kurt Warner or they knew about Marshall Faulk and a little bit about, of course, you know, Isaac Bruce and stuff, but Torrey Holt was a rookie. Kurt Warner came out of nowhere. And Isaac Keem, he was, I think, a rookie as well. It was like, who are these guys? And all of a sudden, they are world champions. So, Definitely pretty dope. Once again, this is the platform.
Can we take? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Can we take the GM from the Rams season from 99, 2000 to put them on the Cardinals and see what they can do?
Well, if she was alive, then yeah.
No, Jordan Frontier was the owner. I said the GM.
Oh, the GM. You're right. That was I think it was Jay Zigman or something like that. I forgot who that was. But yeah, no, I wish we had an owner like Georgia Frontier. Shoot, that would have kept the Rams here.
Doc built the way. He's not a bad owner. Honestly, y'all, looking in perspective how other organizations are running the baseball, he's not a bad owner. We may again put him on a higher platform because we expect more, because they built us to expect more, putting winning products on the field. So overall, he's not a bad owner. I don't beat him up. I just want him to open up his wallet more. Like you said, you can't get that St. Louis Cardinal hookup. You can't get that 2-for-1 deal. You can't get me hook us up because we done went to the playoffs 5 years, and 5 years we haven't gone. So no discount. Pay full price. Pay for what you get. Literally.
You know what's funny about that though is it's always the moves that we talk crap on that Mo does in the deadline, and they always are like the ones that turn out to be pretty decent, like J. Happ.
Right.
Like, granted, he's pitched mainly against the Pirates, but again, they're still a major league team. Or
barely.
Garcia almost hit
like
in the face, and now this guy's been dominant. And T.J. McFarland.
Right.
Are you kidding me?
Like, speaking of which, and Cardinal fans, please answer this question for me. Because it's obvious that Alex Reyes is getting burned out.
Yeah.
It's obvious. You know what I'm saying? And remember that one year, I forget his name, but he was like the closer for like the first 5 months of the season until the very last month. He kind of ran out of gas, and we had to go ahead and take him out. What was the guy's name? It was during the years.
Norris?
Who?
Bud Norris?
No. It was before him. It was during the time where Matheny was the manager.
Edward Mujica?
Yeah, that's it. The whole season, he was lights out doing his thing, but then he ran out of gas, and then they had to choose somebody else to close because he just didn't have it no more. Alex Reyes, this is his first year. He's been pitching this damn long. You know what I'm saying? And ever since the All-Star break, you have seen him lose it. And it happened again today. You know, last 2 out of 3 or last 3 out of 4 appearances, he's blown a save. Something he didn't do all the first half of the season. It's time for the organization to realize, like, okay, you know what?
Overusing him?
Yeah, you know, maybe he just doesn't have it.
I don't think he is overused. I feel like out of the big 3, he's the one that hasn't been used nearly as much, and he wants to be a starter next year.
Right. But
let me ask y'all this, because of Martinez, do you think us depending on Martinez for his second or third time around as supposed to be a starter, and they put him back in the bullpen, and you see how that happens? Do you think them not be able to rely on him, Martinez, is affecting the other people in the bullpen?
I guess it could have, because I think a lot of it's just injuries, you know, like going into this year, you're like, oh, so we get Jordan Hicks back, you know,
right.
And then so you was it last year or this year KK started in the pen? I can't remember. But
KK started as a closer last season.
Okay, so last season, you know, so like, and that's how it's kind of been with the Cardinals the last couple of years, is kind of closer by committee, which I think is fine. There's a lot of teams like the Tampa Bay Rays, they don't have a set closer, and they're doing perfectly fine. It's just, I kind of wish they would do a kind of, you know, here and there type of thing. But Alex Reyes honestly played with fire the entire year. The dude's walked guys constantly all year long. You know, it's just our team got him out of it early on in the year. Like I said, you know, we were playing better baseball in the beginning of the year, but now it's, yeah, I guess he's burnt out, but I don't think he's been used nearly as much as other pitchers in the league.
Yeah. And here's the thing. He's always been known since he started to have issues with walking people too. So that issue still hasn't been fully corrected to the point where we can depend on him to stop walking people. That's
his number one weakness?
Yes.
On the scout report, that's the number one thing?
Yes.
Okay.
He wastes too many pitches.
Okay.
Right now, for the rest of the year, I would almost put Garcia there.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, just because, I mean, the guy throws 90, like...
100. He had 100 today.
100. Yeah, I meant 100. He throws 100 on the black. And, like I said, he's had that one shaky start, his first start, and then that game that the Cardinals blew against the Cubs. he was pitching to start that off, but that's not on him. That's on the defense and a whole bunch of stuff. So ever since then, the guy's been lights out.
Yes, he has.
Obviously, like we all said, Reyes is not as good. Again, it wasn't even amazing to start the year off as get lucky and the series that we swept them up, which he walked in multiple runs even then. So.
No, sorry about that. Y'all been getting a little bit of connection issues from Joe.
Oh, I thought it was me. My connection.
No, getting a bad signal from Joe. So hopefully her Wi-Fi will get back up and running real quick. Let's try this real quick, y'all. Sorry about that. That technology. So we'll bring her back on once she's ready. When I could tell that her signal is back on, we'll get her back in. But yeah, so as she was just saying, Luis Garcia, he's been lights out since this very first game where he, hit a guy. Ever since then, he's been on point. Let's see. Okay, there she go. She's about to get on to another stream. And Joe, welcome back on in.
I don't know what the heck is
happening. Welcome back.
I don't know what we're talking about, but closers, Alex.
Garcia, right?
Yeah, I think Garcia would be the best fit for the rest of the year. I don't think I don't think Reyes is a starter next year. I think they're going to try it out, unfortunately. And I don't think he's a closer, so he can be part of that big three still, the Gallegos and Cabrera. I just don't think he should be, the last guy.
Yeah. But we shall definitely see. Going back real quick to Rams-related information, it was announced yesterday that former Rams head coach Dick Vermeil is a Hall of Fame finalist as a head coach. Should have been already in there, but hey, we'll take it.
But that's what I was thinking. Was he already put on the ballot before and didn't get enough votes?
Nope. Wasn't even
this is his first time being on the ballot?
Yep.
As a coach?
Yep, that's correct.
How the hell I took him all this?
We saying the same thing too. Welcome to.
I could have sworn that's how much talent we had with the Greatest Show on Turf. Where I'm looking at it, and I know it took Bruce a while, but I just knew everybody else had the opportunity to be on the ballot at least. How did I miss Vermeil not being on there? No. That is crazy.
Yeah, so they said
and
that the chances.
He stood the test of time of what he did with the Rams. Forget the Eagles, and he had the Chiefs after the Rams, but still.
Right. Yeah, so they said that because I believe Bill Cowher was on that same ballot last year, and he got in the first time. So the chances are very high that Vermeil will be in the Hall of Fame next year. So hopefully he and Torrey Holt can go in together next year, and that will officially close out the St. Louis Rams chapter in the Hall of Fame.
Look, unfortunately, close out the chapter, but we all never forget St. Louis. We'll still always keep that memory alive.
Yep, most definitely.
I don't know. So it's talked about this whenever I went out. Did you see Birdman's
yes,
comment?
Shouts out to Birdman. He's in regards to favorite moments and everything. He says that he would want to have been Nelly when he ran for that touchdown in the longest yard. That was hilarious.
Oh my God, Birdman out of all the things, that's what you. Okay, Birdman, I'll let you have it. Let Birdman be great with that one, guys.
Right. That was hilarious. So, next topic, real quick, basketball wise. So, last week there was a poll, and they asked a lot of GMs, like, is LeBron James the best player in the game? And LeBron had no votes at all. So, if you see on the screen right now, after that, LeBron tweeted, "Thank you," in all caps, as if I didn't need more to gas me. Then he has
Mamba mentality.
Then he has Washed King. So I put out a tweet like right after I seen that, and y'all know that I'm a huge LeBron fan. Okay, that's my guy. You know what I'm saying? He is one of the best, the greatest. In all of basketball. But as of right now, he is not the best player in the game no more. Not saying it passed him by, but he is not the best player in the game anymore as we stand. And I wish y'all know who I wish was on here right now, because he probably be cussing me out right now. But I had to go and say KD is probably the best player in the game right now. And LeBron is what, 35, 36 years old. He's slowly declining each year. Once again, incredible teammate. We know how great he is. But time is ticking away, and what they call it, Father Time. He's tugging down. You know what I'm saying? It's not like like Brady. He like what, 48 years old, still winning championships.
He like you know what Brady is? He's a curious case of Benjamin Button. That's what Brady is.
Yeah.
That mother aging backwards.
Yeah, but if you pay attention, these last 3 out of the 4 years, LeBron his season has been halted a whole lot because of injuries, and then he doesn't have the same explosiveness that he used to have when he was younger with the Heat or with the Cavaliers. So, but at the same token, look at what Durant has to offer in regards to his game, scoring wise. Defense may not be as great as LeBron's is or was, but still, I just think right now between KD and then here comes Giannis, you have this whole influx of younger talent coming in. They different. I don't see LeBron no more as being the best player in the league right now. What are y'all thoughts?
Is KD how old is he?
I think he's like
early 30, 31, 32.
Yeah.
I feel like he's been in the game forever too, though.
I mean, LeBron came right out of high school. KD did 1 year and then went to the league. So the mileage is basically equivalent. The mileage. They both were in the league by the time they were 20.
Kevin Durant is 32 years old.
Okay, yeah, I don't know much about basketball, obviously, but yeah, I feel like the younger crowd started to make a bigger impact. Like Giannis, I see that guy all over Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Looks like he's doing some big things, and not even just on the court, outside of the court too. But to compare to someone, we'll go back to the guy that we talked about first, Yadier Molina. Yadi, he may not be the best all-around catcher in the game right now, like he was before. And I guess you could say the same thing about LeBron. Again, I'm not a professional about basketball, but that's kind of what it sounds like to me.
Bunny, any thoughts?
Yeah, I had my facial expressions kind of side-eyeing you, Fred. So
what did I do?
No, not you, Joe. No, you're good. I mean, I'm good you did it parallel because I had to do that too. Sometimes help me with the sports. With LeBron, if you talking about none of the GMs said he was the best anymore, somebody could have said one, just like with the All-Star vote, or not All-Star, MVP vote, just one. Y'all act like he washed up. And you said he's not explosive anymore. Nobody in their mid-30s and up is explosive. Hence why people had to evolve their game to, i.e., the jump shot, rather than just keep driving to the hole. I mean, we can look at all the greats.
Yeah.
And they all had to do it. Because when we say who's the only one undefeated, Father Time.
Right.
So I say, if LeBron is not the best, you can put him number 2. You say KD number 1. I can see that argument. I see both of it. One thing I know, KD and LeBron's game aren't the same. They got some similarities, but they do have some differences. So LeBron is definitely shooting more outside. Like, he does threes more than he used to. And that ain't necessarily his best suit, but it don't hurt. At the same time, when you talk about injuries, KD's coming off of injury though too. Now, like I said, he got a few years on. LeBron has a few years on KD, but injuries happen. If it was at the beginning of their career, it'd be different. But it's at the end where you're paying attention to him more. But overall, if somebody say, "Hey, KD's best right now in the league," I wouldn't argue with it. But I could see you saying LeBron still is, and I wouldn't argue with it either. I can see it go both ways. Giannis, I honestly, I don't even put Giannis on the number 3 right now. Nothing against him.
Who you got number 3 then?
Take away from the free throws, because peep this. So look how Giannis played. Look at when Shaq was at his prime. And people used to dog Shaq for not hitting them free throws, right? However, we know Shaq was dominant in the paint. Shaq's game, to me, is better than Giannis.
Ooh, you
now,
think so?
Bring out some NBA heads. Bring out some people that go.
I don't know because
Giannis ain't even involved. I mean, Shaq ain't had no jump shot. Giannis ain't got no either. Giannis can say he had one, he doesn't.
Down there.
You say what?
Say what?
That needs to be on your breaking news line down there. Bunny thinks Shaq is better
It could change over time, but not right now to me. And again, I was some years younger and still learning the game. Well, I knew a little more back then even, but still learning the game. And I just seen Shaq enough to where I look at Giannis. Giannis he's trying to evolve the game. It's still slowly. And not with the free throws. I'm talking about with a jump shot. But Shaq didn't have it either. But you can't tell me that nobody was trying to go against Shaq and thinking like, okay, I could scoop around him and get past him. Sometimes people do that against Giannis. You couldn't do that against Shaq unless he was not in the game. That's the only way you get around Shaq. The dude was too damn dominant. Giannis is not that dominant. Granted, I mean, the styles changed over time. We're talking about 20 years ago now, but still.
I don't know. I mean, I ain't gonna say he is as dominant as Shaq was, but I would say with this game and how it's being played today, he is that dominant. Because in the end, something that Shaq didn't do all the time that Giannis does pretty much every possession, Giannis can handle the ball and be a point guard and take that ball in 5 steps, and he's dunking the ball in.
Okay, what's your version of handling it? Take it to where you're not traveling, okay, but as far as one move, no.
What I'm saying is he could be a bona fide point guard if he wanted to.
You stretching it now. Come on, Smoooth. You stretching it.
Watch his games.
I watched it. That's why I can say you're stretching it. Come on now.
Watch his games more.
Don't count when he inbounds the ball and bring it down the court. I mean, come on. You ain't if it's uncontested.
That's a point guard. What are you talking about? Point guards do that.
You know what a point when somebody gets on you and you don't cause a turnover. When you know who to get it to get it across the half court line. Like I said, when pressure is on, we know who true point guards are.
And Giannis is that guy.
Anybody could do. Not anybody. Enough people can do that. And I say anybody because we know we got butterfinger people in the league. That's mind-boggling. But anyway, nah. I think you're stretching it. But hey, who am I? What do I know?
Oh no, trust me. You know enough, Bunny. You know enough.
I think you know how LeBron is like a point forward. We'll see him do that. Okay, Giannis is trying to do the same thing too, like what LeBron's doing. But still, as far as point guard skills, like I still think you're stretching it. I'm not saying he's lacking skills, but a point guard skill, there's a big difference. And bro.
Hey, Joe.
Nice.
Here you go. That vein about to pop. That vein about to pop.
I'm just saying. That's what I was like. That famous vein of mine. I'm just saying.
I love it.
Like, wait a minute. You're stretching it. Come on, don't let the championship get to y'all. I think.
Oh no. Giannis has been doing this for the last 3-4 seasons now. He just finally got that ring because he got better teammates to assist him with getting that ring.
Right, because we said that 2 years ago. We said we thought the Bucks could have been in the playoff or should have been in the championship back in not the COVID year, 2019, 2020.
Right. Yeah. I got you.
We said he should have been there. We just like when the Raptors got him, I was like, "Oh, maybe they ain't as good as we thought."
No, it was all about him having some better pieces around him, and now he has that, so he's in a better place now. Miss Williams says, "I'm a huge LeBron fan as well, but I have to agree with you talking about me. His numbers are down. I don't know if it's his age or his years in the league or injuries or what. I mean, bottom line, he has a lot of tread in them tires that's being used.
Mileage. But KD does too, but KD's just a few years younger. But KD's gonna go through the same. We see it all the time. And it's unfortunate.
And that's why I made sure that I specified at this time. I ain't saying overall in all basketball life that LeBron's better than KD. I'm just saying that they asked the GMs going into the 2021-22 season, who is the best player, or is LeBron the best player in the game right now? And they all said no, and I agree. Because as of right now, he's not the best player.
Again, I said I could see either way, LeBron or KD. I could see it.
Miss Williams says, plus a lot of the early years he was playing almost complete games, not getting as much rest as other players may have gotten. Exactly. And so now getting to his later years, he may have a good 3 in between 2 to 4 years left. So he may not be playing 82 games a season anymore. He may be getting that Kawhi treatment, even KD, because we know he's injury prone as well. But Giannis, he's a guy that wants to play every game. Not saying he's the best at all, but I'm just saying it's a change, it's a shift going on right now in the NBA, and maybe this past season was maybe that official start of that shift. This is the Platform Sports Talk Show. I am your boy Smooth, along with. Where's she at? Where you at, Bunny?
Sorry about that. I had to mute out the background noise.
Oh, okay. Let's do it again. It's the Platform Sports Talk Show. I'm your boy Smooth, along with
Bunny.
Jobo.
All right, so it is that time, people. For those watching for the very first time, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Hit that like, hit them shares, hit them retweets, because the reason why a lot of the newbies are here is because of this man. And I'm going to have our baseball and hockey expert, Joe, to go ahead and bring this man on in. Joe, the floor is yours.
Oh my gosh, okay. I can't believe you did this to me. But anyways, so our next guest, he spent 20 plus years at the Post Dispatch. He's a known voice around St. Louis, covering pretty much anything remotely St. Louis sports. And then in 2017, he moved to The Athletic. You'll hear him on 101 ESPN a lot. And he's also an author of 2 books. One of them is right here, is 100 Things Blues Fans Should Know and Do Before They Die, and Bernie Federco, My Blues Note. And everyone, welcome to our show, Jeremy Rutherford.
There it is. Jeremy Rutherford.
Mr. Rutherford is in the building.
Hey, how you guys doing? How you doing? Can you hear me okay?
Oh, yeah, we hear you just fine. How you doing, sir?
Good. Hey, thanks for having me, Smooth. I appreciate it, you guys.
Oh, man, it is definitely our pleasure. Thank you for taking so much time out of your day. We know that you are a very, 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 very busy man around these parts.
Nope.
You're so busy, Jeremy. You need a stunt double, I tell you.
Well, if you can find a 300-pound guy that looks like me, maybe I have one.
Really?
Good one. And a few weeks ago, or should I say maybe about a month and a half ago, I had the opportunity to meet Mr. Rutherford in person. It was at a book signing. It was along with Benjamin Hockman. How Hockman was giving out his 11-11 book, and as you see on your screen right now, Jeremy Rutherford was giving out his book as well. What's the name of that book, Jeremy?
Wait a minute. Hockman was giving it out. He was overcharging people at that place. No, we got a couple books. One is 100 Things Blues Fans Should Know and Do Before They Die. And it was actually, there you go. Thanks a lot. That one right there was written in 2014. And I don't know if you guys heard this yet, but the Blues won the Stanley Cup a couple years ago. Can you believe it?
What? We did? Oh, my God. Where have I been?
Yeah. How about that? So what happens is the publisher calls and they say, hey, you remember that book you wrote in 2014? And I said, yeah. Can you take 5 chapters out of it and write 5 new Stanley Cup chapters? And we're going to brand that as the Stanley Cup edition. So it was really fun. I never thought I'd be writing about a Stanley Cup. So that edition is now out on stores. That's printed in 2020 after the Blues won the Stanley Cup. And then real quick, the other book is Bernie Federco's Autobiography. To me, one of the most down-to-earth superstars you'll ever meet, Bernie Federco. And he's a Hall of Famer, blues legend. And I was fortunate enough to be able to write his autobiography.
Nice. And, you brought up Bernie Federco. He puts me in the mindset of Cardinals on Al Rabosky.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like I hear him, I hear Al. It's like you can't really tell the difference a little bit. They kind of do similar things, but they're both great guys. Now Al doesn't have a statue outside or anything like Bernie or Jersey retired like Bernie, but both have been so great in the community. And once again, it was a pleasure being able to meet you at the venue. You was very humble, very cool guy. You and Benjamin. It was hot in there. I know that for sure.
Oh my goodness, so hot, so hot, so hot. Yeah, the beers were going down good.
Yeah, it was definitely hot. But definitely once again, thanks for being part of the show. Once again, everybody, hit that like, get them questions in. Don't be shy. Let's have a good time with Mr. Jeremy Rutherford. What's been going on so far with you, Jeremy?
Not too much, guys. It's weird. Some people say, you cover the Blues, right? And I say, yeah. Okay, well, so you work from October until May. What do you do the rest of the year? And as you guys know, there really is no downtime. There is no out of season because there's so much going on with the trades and the draft and free agency and, Vladimir Tarasenko requesting for a trade. So you've always got to be on your toes. I take my phone with me everywhere. I took my kids on kind of a staycation a week or two ago. We went to a few places around St. Louis, and let me tell you, there was a few times where they were saying, Dad, quit looking at your phone. So there really is no downtime. I'm trying to bring, some good content to the people who read at The Athletic.
So would you say you're similar to like the Adam Scheffler of football?
I don't know if I'm anywhere close to a fraction of that guy. There's a lot of people that cover the NBA and the NFL and Major League Baseball, and I honestly don't know how they sleep. I mean, I heard something today, maybe you guys have heard this before, that Schefter doesn't really sleep like 6-7 hours at a time. He sleeps a few times a day for an hour or two. I don't know if I could do that.
Right. Like, does he?
I feel like that's what Ken Rosenthal does.
Yeah, same thing. Right, yeah. Same thing. Yeah.
So before we get into the current events of the Blues, let's go ahead and take it all the way back to your childhood days. And when would you say was the moment that you fell in love with sports?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I appreciate it. I'm a lifelong St. Louisan. I was born here. I always tell people that I've moved a few times within St. Louis, but I think I've lived within a 20-mile radius my entire life. It wasn't until I started covering the Blues where I actually got to travel and see some things. But I was a young kid, I want to say 10 or 12 years old, and I was carrying the St. Louis Post Dispatch sports page in my back pocket, and I just loved to read sports stories. And I didn't read them so much for the content because I know that the Cardinals won or I knew what the Blues did, but I was reading the articles for style and how the author approached the article. I'd watch the game and then see how did that writer go about writing the story. And there, I'm not talking about 10 or 12. I was probably 15 or 17 then. But I think I got to a point where I could read 4 or 5 paragraphs and tell you which writer it was at the Post-Dispatch who wrote it, whether it was Dan O'Neill or Jeff Gordon or Vahe Gregorian or those guys. And so I always knew I wanted to be a sports writer. And I'll tell you a quick funny one. This kind of cemented that I was not going to ever play for the St. Louis Cardinals, that if I wanted to be in sports, I was going to have to learn how to write, right? So here's the deal. I'm playing Little League Baseball. I cork a base hit up the middle, smooth. It goes past the pitcher, over the mound, over second base, out to center field. And as I'm making my last step to first base to touch the base for my base hit, I hear the first baseman's glove pop, and dang it, if that center fielder didn't throw it to first base, and umpire tells me I'm out, and I said, man, I better learn how to construct a noun and a verb if I'm going to ever be around sports.
Oh, Lord. So you got that Rick Ankiel treatment, that Clemente treatment with the hole out there in the outfield.
Can you imagine that center fielder was probably saying, okay, if the ball comes to me, I got a shot at first base.
Right. He probably telling the whole outfield, if it goes to you, throw it to first base.
Right.
So would you say that baseball was your very first sport that you played?
Yeah, baseball. And, I had a single mom and my dad definitely was supportive, but, we couldn't afford to play hockey. I have a son that plays hockey now, and it's almost like you need a second job to pay for it. And so
you keep hearing
it's
that.
Tough. Yeah, and it's getting a little better in terms of, there's just more opportunity out there for young kids. But, definitely baseball. And I'll tell you that I was at the Post Dispatch, and I was covering the University of Illinois sports. Loved it. I was covering men's football, basketball, a little bit of women's basketball. And but I was driving 2 hours, 45 minutes one way from my house to Champaign-Urbana, right? So I would go up there for a press conference that might only be an hour long and then turn around and drive back. So I was in the car for 6 hours for an hour-long press conference. And one day, the Post Dispatch called me, and they said, hey, we're going to move Derek Gould from the Blues to baseball, and we want to know if you would like to do hockey. And I think I rolled down my window. Remember back in the day we used to roll down the window?
Right.
And I rolled down the window and screamed at the top of my lungs because my drive went from 2 hours and 45 minutes to about 20 minutes driving down to, at the time it was called Savvis Center. So, yeah, I got switched to hockey in 2005, covered it at the Post Dispatch until about 2017, and then made the switch to the Athletic a few years ago.
Nice. So, let's see. You played baseball. Was there any other sport that you tried to play during your younger years?
A little bit of football. I went to Lutheran South, but I was a guard, end, and tackle. I guarded the water. I sat at the end of the bench, and I tackled anybody that came close on that one. Hey, and I don't know. I hope none of my teachers or my coaches are listening to this one here, but one time my parents were out of town, so I decided I was gonna. I decided I was going to have a party at my house, and I printed up directions to my house from the school, and I put about 20 Xerox copies in my football pants. And during the game, I was passing the directions back to the cheerleaders who were passing them back to the people in the bleachers. And son of a gun, I drove home, and I got up my street, and I see my parents' minivan on a tow truck, and they're on the front porch waving. So the tow truck stalled, and all of a sudden people started showing up for the party, and my parents were asking what the heck was going on. So I wasn't too popular that night. But yeah, a little bit of baseball, a little bit of football, and that's about it. But as I said earlier, quickly realized that pro sports really weren't in my career unless I was going to have a notepad and a recorder.
Okay, and famous St. Louis question: what high school did you go to?
Yeah, Lutheran South. It was I went to Lutheran school growing up, and was able to continue on with some friends, and wouldn't trade it for anything. I know wherever you go to school, you're going to make good friends, but it was such a great networking opportunity, and good people who I'm still in touch with today, and go back and speak to some of the students, and enjoyed my time at Lutheran South.
So was that the time that you really got into wanting to be a journalist or writing?
Yeah, it really was. I didn't know how to type at the time, and that was a huge deal, Smooth. And I remember I looked at the schedule at Lutheran South, and they were going to offer typing class. At Lutheran South, it was called 0 hour. So, a lot of high schools, you go and you got first hour, second hour, third. Well, this was like at 7 o'clock in the morning. Again, it was called 0 hour. And I had no choice. Hey, did I want to be a senior and wake up at 6 o'clock and go to school at 7? No. But if I didn't, who knows if I'd ever become a sports writer. But 7 o'clock in the morning, I was sitting there. I got my laptop in front of me right now. It was exactly like this. I was J space at 7 o'clock in the morning. So, wow. I had a great teacher there for a newspaper. Her name is Mrs. June Hill. She was terrific. She's since passed on. I wouldn't be where I'm at without her and her family, and how much they've helped. But I definitely knew in high school that I wanted to be a sports writer. And again, I can't say it enough, just been blessed.
So were you taking up the writing and doing articles for your school and for the sports?
Yep, I was doing articles for Lutheran South, and then I ended up moving in with my grandma and grandpa my junior year of high school at Lutheran South. And I came home one day, and my grandma said that, hey, I was listening to KMOX today, and you guys have listened to KMOX a lot growing up, I'm sure. And they said that if you want to get into the field that you want to do, start making some phone calls, bust your tail. And I called the Post Dispatch the next day, and they said, how old are you? And I said, like 17. And they said, sorry, you're too young. I called the Suburban Journals. You guys familiar with the Suburban Journals back in the day?
I recall them.
Yeah, and so I called them the next day, and as luck would have it, they were looking for somebody to go cover Little League sporting events because they wanted to get as many kids' names into the paper as possible. So I said, heck, I'll do it. And one day, right place, right time, I went up to the coach and I said, hey, I'd like to ask you about the game. And turns out this was the deputy sports editor of the Post Dispatch, Mike Smith. He was the coach of this team. And he said, how long you been doing this? And I said, a few months. He said, you want to cover high school sports for the Post? I said, I called you. You guys hung up on me. So anyway, I had a meeting with him, and he put me on high school sports. And then as I touched on earlier, I went from high school sports to college and then on to the pros.
Yeah, I think that's pretty awesome. Just for people who are watching right now, this is the kind of stories that we love to hear. People don't understand the grind, the mean nights of maybe being emotional or being frustrated, trying to be inspired. Because, like you said earlier, you was turned down earlier by KMOX because of your age. So then another opportunity to try to hop on. So it's good to be able to hear the growth, the progress that you have made throughout your time to what you're doing now. So after high school, what college did you attend?
Yeah, and just to piggyback on that for a second is I always tell people, sometimes you go speak to the classes, make your own breaks. Yes, there are a lot of breaks in life for people. Maybe you look at somebody's career and you say, yeah, that person got that job because, something fell in their lap and it broke for them. But if I don't call the Post Dispatch and they tell me I'm too young, if I don't call the Suburban Journals and then they put me out on the baseball field covering the youth teams, then I never run into the sports editor of the Post Dispatch. So, some people, lucky things happen, but I always tell people, make your own breaks, make those phone calls. I remember a lot of times, guys, my friends would be out partying on the weekends, going to, different houses and, partying until 4 a.m. And I was covering professional women's basketball, the River Queens. I don't know if you guys remember them out at UMSL. They played for a while. And
them.
Yeah. And so, my whole Saturday night would be driving out to UMSL and writing 3 paragraphs about, women's basketball. And that's what I had to do to kind of make my mark. So I just think, post high school in terms of college, I wanted to go to Mizzou. I wanted to go to the journalism school. And that coach / sports editor that I ran into, Mike Smith, he said, listen, if you go to Mizzou, there's nothing I can really do for you. It's a great school. You'll get a great education, and it'll help your journalism career. But the only way I can help you is if you stay in town. So I ended up going to University of Missouri, St. Louis, and he just started sending me to every high school event you could think of. I was covering girls basketball, I was covering water polo, I was covering everything, probably 4 or 5 nights a week, and just trying to get as much experience as I could.
Nice. What was during your high school and college years, what was the most exciting sport that you loved to cover the most?
I think being a Cardinal fan growing up, that was exciting. So I was fortunate, even though I was covering high school sports, they were sending me into the Cardinals locker room and sending me into the Rams locker room. So I was like the lowest person on the totem pole in terms of our coverage. We had columnists, we had beat writers, we had everybody who was, much higher than me. But I got to experience it. And, for a while there, guys, I was in awe. To walk into the Rams locker room and there's Marshall Faulk and Isaac Bruce and Kurt Warner, you kind of pinched yourself at first, but I think slowly but surely you realize that, yeah, you do have an awesome job, but at the same time, you have to be good. And you look at your watch and you got 12 minutes until that story is due. If you don't get some comments from these guys, the greatest show on turf, and get back to your laptop and crank out that story in 12, 15, 17 minutes and get it in on time, you're not going to be part of the coverage and you're not going to have a career in journalism. So, quickly it became, okay, yeah, these guys are famous athletes, but they've got a job, I've got a job, and I got to do it, or else I'm going to be somewhere else. So I would say things like that. I remember going in the 49ers locker room and being 2 feet away from Jerry Rice and those guys, or, you go to the Blues game and the Post Dispatch hockey writer Dave Luking would say, hey, go into the LA Kings locker room and grab a couple comments, and you go in there and you're getting a comment from Wayne Gretzky. So it was super exciting. But I will say this, I'm glad I remembered this. There's nothing like covering high school sports. There really isn't. It's so pure. The athletes love to be covered. They love the attention. They deserve it. It's not a business yet. I've been covering professional sports for 20 years. So to go back, I even tell my boss sometimes, when I was at the Post Dispatch, send me out to that high school football game. I'd love to be down on the field again. So I would say that anything you can cover, it doesn't matter if it's Cardinals or it's, Parkway South. It's just a joy.
Anything like that in high school. Remember the zoo coaches came watch us play softball my junior and senior year. It's nervous, but you're excited about it. It gives you something to really look forward to. So that was cool.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I remember at the time, like I said, I was 17, 18 years old at the Journal. There's some times where I'd go interview an athlete, and I was 18 and they were 18. It was crazy.
Yeah.
It's interesting you said that high school sports, you love covering it, and because of it not being a paid profession, I guess it was just raw, natural. You got emotions from those players. But I guess it's so new to them. I guess that's one of the biggest reasons why I guess they're easy to cover. Did you have any memorable moments covering a certain high school athlete over your career?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. There were so many good ones. I'll tell you the one that comes to mind that you guys probably are familiar with her, Niele Ivey. She's the coach at Notre Dame now.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
I probably covered every single one of her high school basketball games at Koryezu, and she was amazing. I know Kristen Fokel's right there at the top, too, in terms of, women's basketball players in the area. But, my editor would say, hey, which girls' game are you covering this week? And I say, wherever Niele Ivey's playing, because she was just a show. To me, she really was mini Michael Jordan. She could do everything, hit the three, drive the lane, made other teammates better, did everything. And so I just got a real thrill covering her. And then she came back to St. Louis, right, Smoooth, for Final Four, I think, with Notre Dame when she was a player. And then now, obviously, she took over for Muffet McGraw coaching that team. And I'm just so happy for her success. So that's probably the one athlete that sticks out the most.
And I know that during that time with Niele Ivey, wasn't Jackie Stiles also playing, or was that years later?
I know she was down in the Springfield area, right? That's where she played her college.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, she was amazing too. I saw her more so in college, especially when they came to town for that MVC tournament.
Okay.
Than I did in high school.
So, as a young writer, young inspiring writer, journalist, who was some of your inspirations? Someone that you maybe looked up to, took some notes on, etc.
Yeah, a lot of the local guys. I have to admit that I did flip through Sports Illustrated, and at the time there wasn't the internet, so it's not like you could pop on the New York Times and some of those types of publications. So mine was really limited to carrying that copy of the Post Dispatch sports page in my back pocket. So, I don't know how familiar you guys are with the names, but, names I mentioned earlier, Dan O'Neill, Vahe Gregorian, Jeff Gordon, Dave Luking, Tom Wheatley. I just grew up with that bunch. And like I said, before I wrote at the Post Dispatch, I knew their styles, I knew their names, I knew what they covered, and then all of a sudden you get hired at the Post Dispatch, and now you're rubbing shoulders with these guys, and you're in the office able to ask them questions, and they were just a huge help. And the biggest thing is listening to the answer. There's so many journalists out there, me included early on, and I'm probably still guilty of it, is when you ask a question, sometimes they're given the answer and you're thinking about your next question and you're not paying any attention to necessarily what they're saying. Well, what if they say something that's just, bizarre or so interesting, and if you would follow up on that answer, it would take you down a much better path in terms of how the interview goes. So yeah, we all kind of jot down some questions. Hey, I want to ask this person these 5 or 6 questions. But I've learned over the years, really listen to the answer, because it's going to lead to something good. And another thing, real quick, is that I've learned from these guys over the years is keep it a little bit open ended. Hey, I wasn't around you growing up, so I'm writing your life story right now, but I wasn't there, so I don't know all the questions to ask. You tell me what you think is noteworthy about your life, or something that people don't know about you that has never been written about. And you'll be surprised, I think, sometimes when you throw it out there. Sometimes the athlete will say, well, you know what? Something nobody knows about me is I collect horse trading cards or something like that. And then all of a sudden you find out that this person has 7,000 trading cards in their basement, and then, they've always been a horse racing fan growing up. So you just never know. And obviously just making that up on the fly, but you got to listen to the answers.
I feel like I've done better with that since I've been on the show, Friends, is, all the different people that we've had on from, ESPN, now Mr. Rutherford, Mr. Claiborne, like when Claiborne was talking about, just sitting down having a drink with Wayne Gretzky, like that was just like, stop for a second and like really pay attention to everything else.
Yeah.
So every time I like have my questions written down, and I feel like because then like you can ask other questions from their answers, and keep it going, and you just keep finding out more and more.
Yeah, and you mentioned the name right there, Mike Claiborne, unbelievable. I mean, he's an absolute legend. The fact that I can call him a friend is still crazy to me. I listened to him growing up on the radio, every single day. And, one of the biggest supporters, like nobody else would know this, but, 2 weeks ago, my phone rang and it said Mike Claiborne, and you answer, and he says, hey, I'm just calling to tell you, great article, good job, keep it up, and if you need anything, holler at me. And you just can't express what that means. He's a legend in this town.
Speaking of legends, since you first got to the Post Dispatch, who did you have as a mentor, or who did you gravitate to mentor you to learning the ropes of Post Dispatch and writing on this level?
Yeah, that's a good question. Just some of those names that I mentioned earlier that were there, but the tough part is, when they give you a beat, you go out and cover your team or your sport, and those Post-Dispatch writers aren't necessarily there with you. So it was a lot of reading other people, and then maybe you read an article that you like, and then I was able to either call that person or see them in the office and say, why did you approach it this way? And then kind of get the reasoning why they did something. And still to this day, I know I mentioned this earlier, but still to this day, when I read articles, very rarely do I finish the article and I can tell you what the score was or what the coach's name was or anything like that. It's just all about construction and how did you build it, and what did you put where. And a quick funny story here is some things hit and some things miss, and you just learn from them and move on, just like any other profession. I'll tell you a quick one here is University of Illinois football. The coach was Ron Turner back when I was covering the team. And they just got waxed, right? So they lost in Iowa like 66-3 or something like that. And I wrote in my story that Ron Turner had good news and bad news for his football team when he delivered the post-game speech. And the bad news was that they got waxed 66-3, but the good news was that he saved 15% on his car insurance. And that was back when the Geico commercial was popular. And the funny part is with writing, and maybe you guys can back me up on this, maybe it's the same with broadcasting. Two different people listen to us or read us, and they can have different opinions. And that actually happened with that article. So the sports editor comes up to me and says, hey, Jeremy, I really didn't like that, save 15%. I don't even know what that means. And I'm like, do you have a TV? Did you not see the commercial? Like, yeah. And the sports editor's like, yeah, that didn't work. I mean, if you had it all over to do again, I'd probably do it differently. And all of a sudden, I don't know if this name rings a bell with you guys, Bill McClellan, longtime columnist for the St. Louis Post Dispatch. Mm-hmm. So he walks over. I'm having this conversation with the sports editor who's telling me that was a bad angle to take. And Bill McClellan goes, hey, Jeremy. And I said, yeah. And he goes, say 15%. That was so clever. That was such a good job. And I just looked at my sports editor and put my nose up and walked away.
But you brought up another interesting point, so I'm gonna a little bit, because you do print journalism. But if you had any broadcast journalist to be, anyone in the world,
oh man,
that one for a day, like even a soccer announcer or something, like
even a who?
A soccer announcer.
Oh, soccer. Goal. Yeah. It'd be tough. The thing is, and I'll answer that question in a second, but the thing is, when I'm 46 years old, so when I grew up, all these industries, print, radio, TV, they weren't blended like they are now. So when I went to school, it was to be a newspaper writer, and then all of a sudden you're in the field 7 or 8 years, and now all of a sudden they're asking you to do a radio hit or a radio show, or can you do this TV hit, things like that. And I kind of had to learn that because I didn't really know that. So I think over the years I've still thought of myself as a newspaper guy, and then now I guess since I'm at the Athletic, I'm website, it's not in print anymore. But I admire broadcasters. I always say that I've got a cursor blinking in front of me, and if I type something that I don't like, I just backspace it, whereas you can't really do that once you say it on the air. But yeah, as far as broadcasters go, I think they do a great job. I've been friends with Dan McLaughlin forever. I think he does a great job with the Cardinals. One guy I really like, Kevin Harlan, does a great job with the football. He's one of my favorites. I'm trying to think of some other ones. Maybe you guys can help me out here a little bit. Who are some of your favorites?
I'll let you go, Smoooth, but okay.
I always bring up some guys like Vince Scully.
yeah, Vince Scully. There's a college basketball guy. His name's escaping me.
Gus Johnson.
Oh, Gus Johnson is phenomenal.
Yes.
He's phenomenal.
Yes.
When I covered, and I can't believe I had a brain fart on his name there, because he's right there in my top couple. But when I used to cover University of Men's basketball, you'd be sitting on press row, so you're 10 feet away from Gus Johnson, and he's just phenomenal.
Yeah, and you already brought up Kevin Harlan. I'm a huge fan. I'm not sure about other people from St. Louis for some reason, but like Joe Buck,
Joe Buck, yep.
Definitely huge fans. You brought up Danny Mac. It's just been a lot of great talent from around the St. Louis area that's doing great things. Look at some of the guys who are on ESPN or Word, like the Trey Wingos, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So those guys, man, it's a lot of talent that we have here in St. Louis. Definitely a lot of talent, man. And you're definitely one of them. So you brought up earlier how you were denied at that time because of your age from the Post Dispatch. But then you get older, and now the opportunity came back. So how did it feel being able to go back to the Post Dispatch? Like
yeah,
here I am, here I go. Like Mystical, here I go. How did it feel being able to go back now to the Post Dispatch and start your career off there?
Well, it was great. And I know we're joking around there about here I am, but I was a absolute complete nobody. It wasn't like hey, I told you I'd get here type moment, anything like that. I just put my head down, and when they said jump, I said how high. One of the, maybe the most famous sports writer ever in St. Louis, Bob Bragg, at the time he was still writing columns for the St. Louis Post Dispatch, and I'll never forget this. Here I am, like 18, 19 years old in the office, and shoot, he might have been in his 70s at the time even. And they put new computers in the Post Dispatch office, and obviously I'm young, so I'm familiar with the latest technology. And I'll never forget, I'll try to do it right here on the screen, but Bob Brigg, 70-something years old, been writing columns forever. He grabs the mouse, and he starts, aiming it at the screen.
Oh, no.
He's like, "What's this, Jeremy? What's this do? What's this do? I don't understand what this thing is." And I said, "Here, Mr. Bragg, you need to put it down on the desk here and just kind of move it around, and then you can write your story." So I got a kick out of that. But yeah, it was just, I hate to say this. This is going to come out wrong. I know all young aspiring, let's just use journalism as our example here. I know there are a lot of hard workers. I know there are a lot of people who were like me way back when who would do anything the boss said. But having said that, I do feel like there are a lot of young people who are in the position today that I was in 25 years ago who really want it to happen fast, and they want to cover the Cardinals tomorrow, and they want a promotion after 6 months. And I don't know, different generations, I guess, but
spoiled.
I never went into the boss and said, hey, you got to let me cover the Cardinals. Hey, you got to do this. It was when they came to me and said, hey, you've shown that you can do this. Would you like to do this? And then I'm just, giddy. So again, I know a lot of young kids today. I talk to them and they're just as hungry as I was back then. But if anybody's listening, or, I would just say, put in your time. It'll come. You just have to show them that you're dependable and that you're willing to do what needs to be done. And guess what? You're going to be better for it. I mean, all the skills that you develop, it's just like being the backup quarterback in the NFL for a little while. Look at, I hate to use a guy that's in the headlines all the time, Aaron Rodgers, but, there's a guy who held the clipboard for a while and it paid off. So anyway, that's my analogy is hold the clipboard for a little bit, show them you can do it, and, things will work out for you.
And you brought up the Post Dispatch earlier, and I wanted to mention this is a guy that I'm very cool with. I consider him a good friend. He's a church member also. He goes by the name of Gary Harrelson.
Yeah, Gary. Yeah.
Yeah, very good guy. So
he's awesome.
I let him know that I spoke with you on the show. So, in regards to your role as a insider, as a journalist, as a writer, how important is it to establish great relationships with people?
It's all there is. There really is. And John Davidson, you guys might be familiar with him. He longtime broadcaster, and then he was the president of the Blues for several seasons. He gave me some advice one time. He said, it's a marathon, not a sprint. So if you treat relationships like it's a sprint, that means that somebody tells you something and you race to your computer, you race to Twitter, and you got the scoop, and you're hot stuff for a couple hours because you got that scoop. That might be fine for 24 hours, but these relationships that you're involved in with these executives and players and such, they're going to quit going to you. I mean, it's not how things work. And so over the years, what I've tried to do, and sometimes you fall away from it, and you try to stay the course, is think of everything like it's a marathon. If I report this, or if I report this in a certain way, how is that going to impact how this person felt about our conversation? And I feel like if you can stay on the up and up and prove to people that you'll take care of stories and you'll handle them the way you've done for 20 years, then you'll be okay. And so that's how I try to handle it. And listen, it's not always pretty, and readers, viewers, they have no clue that sometimes behind the scenes there's a little bit of headbutting going on. But the bottom line is you get through that, and you try to always continue to carry yourself like a professional, and hopefully they see that at the end of the day.
Ooh, Jeremy, you hit on something. We're talking about relationships.
Yeah.
So I had I don't want to say disagreement, but the mister and I, sometimes we don't see on the same page when it comes to storylines in sports. So I don't know if you can, give your 2 cents, or you may know a story, but do you think when you're talking about relationships, let's say with another media personality or a player, some things are leaked out to the public on purpose for the press and the publicity, or is it a relationship going bad? I'm mad at you, so I'm gonna leak out this information that you're trying to lead this team, even though it wasn't publicly said.
Yeah, I think that happens. I try to be careful of not doing it. one thing that, and I'm going to try to be vague with, with the example here, is a lot of people will say, well, that person called the media and told them this because they wanted it out there. And I try to tell them in the best terms I can is that person didn't call me. I was, like I said to you guys earlier, doing your due diligence, working hard, and called that person or that group of people and said, hey, what's going on with this? And then they told me, and I wrote a story about it. And so, I feel like if it's a true leak, then that means they're calling you and trying to get the word out. I feel like if I'm making phone calls and doing my due diligence and something comes from that, then that's not necessarily, I guess, parts of it could be a leak, but, obviously they're telling you things that they want public or else they wouldn't be telling you. So I don't know if I completely answer your question. I'm just trying to explain that I do think what you said exists. And I think as you get older in this business, you can try to smell it out the best you can and just try to be professional with it again.
That's fine. I know, again, because you're still in the business, but you can only divulge so much information. But just because of relationships, and when Smoooth asked you about, building a relationship, how important is it? I'm like, but some of these stories come out and we talk about certain individuals, and I'm like, are they not cool? Or, we hear about front office and the players,
yeah, right.
About, one writer write bad thing about another writer. I'm like, it's like a whole soap opera. I'm like,
it really is. Yeah, it really is. I try to stay away from, you're talking about media members, on Twitter back and forth. I try to stay away from that for sure. But I will say to answer the first part is, look, I was fortunate enough when they asked me to do the Blues, it was 2005. And so when David Braun gets drafted and, a couple years later, what was he, 2007, I think. Look, I've known him for 14 years. And so I feel like I can pick up the phone and call him and ask him about something, and he's going to have trust in me that I'm going to handle it the right way. I sat with Alex Pietrangelo, the Blues captain, for an hour one time in the lounge area. And after about a half hour, he starts tearing up and he tells me about he and his wife had a miscarriage. And at the time, I didn't know what kind of power that story was going to have, but we told it, and the comment section filled up with people saying, oh my gosh, I've kept it quiet for all these years, but we had a miscarriage as well. And Alex Pietrangelo having the strength to come out and talk about it is just phenomenal. That's why I love him. That's why I love hockey, whatever. And so anyway, a couple days ago, Jaden Schwartz, I called him, had no agenda with the article whatsoever, just call him and say, hey, you're moving on to Seattle. What are your thoughts? And he says, I almost did not play last year for the Blues after the death of my dad. And so what I'm getting at here is I think relationships and knowing these guys 6, 8, 10, 12, 13 years, they have faith in you. And when they bring you that type of information, God forbid, a miscarriage, the passing of Jaden Schwartz's dad, things like that, they're giving you that information, I believe, because they have trust in the relationship.
Good answer.
So 20 plus years at the Post Dispatch, and then
I'm only 22 years old, so that's pretty good.
Right. I wonder how that happened now. But then the rise of the Athletic. What made you go ahead and decide, or was it that the Post Dispatch let you go first and then the Athletic came, or what happened?
I'm going to show you. I'm going to flip my computer here a little bit, and you're going to see the ceiling that I stared at agonizing when I was making that decision to go from the Post Dispatch to the Athletic. Look, people talk about dream jobs, growing up wanting to be a Cardinal, and now you got some of those hometown guys. Look at Pat Maroon, grew up watching the Blues, and then he wins the Stanley Cup with the Blues. Well, on a much, much, much smaller scale, my dream was to write for the Post Dispatch, and I got to live that dream for close to 20 years. I I got to a point in my career where I felt like I wanted to expand a little bit. I wanted to be able to sit down with people for an hour and not worry about, did the team win last night 3-2? Not worry about, was the power play clicking? Not worry about any of that stuff. I want to tell the story that Alex Pietrangelo wants to tell, with his family. And, you still dissect the team and cover the games from a different perspective. But when the Athletic came around 2017, I took a look at that situation and I said, I want to grow. I want a different challenge. I want to tell those stories. And fortunately, they were looking for somebody in St. Louis. And again, I stared at the ceiling. I had at the time a 9-year-old and a 5-year-old. And you're making a decision that's going to impact their future if the Athletic doesn't make it. I'm not going to be taken back at the Post Dispatch if the Athletic folds. And so it was a very, very tough decision, but I made it. And the number one thing I want to say here is I can't thank the St. Louis Post Dispatch and all the people there enough for giving an 18-year-old kid a chance. And I was able to grow and develop and then able to jump on something that I felt was better fit for me. And fortunately, I'm 4+ years at the Athletic. The website, the company is so much further along, obviously, than it was when I jumped on board. We got tons of phenomenal writers. And the one thing is, we're not through the woods yet. It's a subscription website. There are a lot of people that are opposed to paying for news. We hope that we can prove to you that it's not just news. You're getting good storytelling, which, our friends at the newspaper do as well. I got a lot of friends still there. I just try to do the best I can with the job description that I have right now, and I'm absolutely, absolutely loving it. I'm not second-guessing my decision whatsoever, and I just hope and pray for big things for the Athletic and that I can continue to stay there and do my thing.
Most definitely. And before we get right to the current events of what's going on with our Blues, can you just give us how great and magical did it feel covering the Blues team in 2019?
Yeah, Smoooth, it was crazy. I was telling somebody this story today. So they won the Stanley Cup, right? And everybody remembers that they were last place, the first half of the season, right? I went back to that season and I looked at 3 headlines that I had at the Athletic. One from the early part of the season, one in the middle, and one at the end. And the drastic difference in the headline was unbelievable. Like the first headline was apathy setting in. And then the second headline, middle of the year, is the Blues have a little spark. I mean, are they really going to possibly turn this thing around? And then the last headline was, these guys are legends. It went from apathy to legends in the course of one season. So it was phenomenal. I got to be around Bobby Plager for a lot of that run. You got to see the Bernie Federcos and, Brett Halls, all those guys that had to experience the near misses. And now here we are, June 19th, I think the parade was. And the smile on these guys' faces. I was fortunate to be on Jake Allen's float. It was a fire truck. I was on the back of it. I got to go down Market Street and kind of duck my head so nobody really see me, but you kind of embedded in the parade a little bit. And I will say this, just so you can get another little laugh. I wore jeans that day, and my 300-pound butt jumped up and off that fire truck and split my jeans.
Oh,
so for the rest of the day,
no.
I'm walking around with a hole in my crotch at the Blues parade.
What? Is that on the top 3 embarrassing moments of your life?
Yeah, it totally was. But
right through the 5 hole.
Yeah, exactly. but just real quick, to answer your question about how amazing it was. Yeah, St. Louis kid, born and raised. Covered the Blues, dream job. And I'll never forget, though, the Blues lost Game 6 at home. There could have been the biggest party this city has ever seen.
I was so waiting for it, too.
Yeah, downtown.
Or eat that day.
Yeah. And so they lose, right? And so my daughter's birthday is going to be in 2 days after Game 6, which is obviously going to be Game 7 in Boston. And she said, so they lost? And I said, yeah. She goes, so you're not going to be at my birthday? And I said, buddy, I can't. I got to go to Boston for Game 7. I'm sorry. And she said, it's okay. Just one condition. And I said, what's that? And she said, can you bring home the Stanley Cup? And I said, I have nothing to do with it. I got nothing to do with it. But I did do this. Third period, I did not know this, guys, but third period, they said, hey, you know that whatever team wins, if your team wins, that you cover, you get to go out on the ice and interview the players. And I said, you're kidding me. So Blues win. I step out on the ice with my recorder and my phone, and I start just walking up to players on the ice and interviewing them. And I said, you know what? Nobody's telling me what I can and can't do here. So I dialed up my daughter and my family back home, and I put them on FaceTime, and I walked around the ice, and they got to see the the players celebrating on the ice from my phone. So hopefully I delivered on that birthday present, huh?
Definitely did. Father of the Year, right there.
Awesome.
All right, Joe, it's up to you.
Oh, okay. All right, well, I had a funny thing. I was asking my husband, I was like, what kind of question should I ask JR? And he mentioned something from 2017. Blatty was trying to, everyone was hashtagging, like, I can't remember what it was, but like NHL Tarasenko 17 to get him on the cover of NHL. Uh-huh. And you were on the radio, and I tweeted at you, and you said that, like, you, like, read my tweet, and I was so happy. But since my name on there's Joe and it's J-O, you're like, he said, and I was like,
sorry.
Like, you know what, JR mentioned my tweet. I'm happy.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, it's funny. It happens all the time, but I thought that was hilarious. But
yeah.
All right, so I guess you kind of just touched on it a little bit, but besides the end result, what was like your favorite storyline from the 2019 season?
Let me think here. It was what was crazy is as the players were jumping off the bench and running to Bennington and throwing their gloves and everything like that, I had it prearranged that if the Blues won, I had it prearranged with Scotty Bowman that I was going to call him right away and just ask him, St. Louis finally won the Stanley Cup. What do you think? He was, of course, their first coach and general manager back in 1967, 68. And so as all that's going on, I'm in the back of the press box in Boston on the phone with Scotty Bowman, and he said, St. Louis deserves it. This is great. So that's something that I'll never forget. I mentioned seeing Bobby Plager one particular game. I followed him around for the entire game. He can't bear to watch. He couldn't, rest in peace, Mr. Plager. We lost him in the last year. But during that playoff run, I did follow him around, and it was just, I'll never forget that. But I would say covering the parade, and the reason I'm going to pick that one is because I get to talk to the keeper of the cup. You guys know the guy with the white hair and the white gloves and everything. Philip Pritchard is his name. And so anyway, I said, listen, you've done this, for 40 plus years, however long. This is the first time I've done this. I'm biased. I'm from St. Louis, but Mr. Pritchard, tell me something. Are the players taking the cup and getting off their floats and fire trucks and cars and trucks and going into the crowd more than usual? And he said, absolutely. He said, I can't recall a parade where the players and the team made it more about the city than what I'm seeing right here. And, obviously, look, we're not taking anything away from any other city. They've had celebrations galore, for years and years and years. But this was 50 plus years in the making. And I think the players understood, that the city just went through so much to get to that point. And so I can only speak for what I saw, but Jake Allen was getting off his float and handing me his daughter. I had a notepad in one hand and his daughter in another hand. What? And he was going over to the crowd and hugging people and chugging beers and doing beer bongs with people that he had never met. And he wasn't the only one. It was just amazing. So, again, when I asked Mr. Pritchard that question and he said, yes, I've never seen anything like that. I mean, I'm taking him at his word that the Blues really made the parade about the city. And so to me, that was the biggest story of the year.
A lot of people bring that up, that the parade was just different than any other parade they've ever seen. It's crazy. June 12th, always remember that, but the parade is almost even better, if that even makes sense. And we've been talking about a cup down Market Street. That was even our fantasy hockey league name for like the past 5-6 years. Cup down Hockey Street. So that was always the dream.
1 million people and only one had to worry about a hole in their pants.
Yeah. Oh, but wait, if it makes you feel better, did you get to interview Brett Hull? Because nobody else had a night like Brett Hull at that parade. Everybody around the world knew how Brett Hull celebrated and what the end result was. So did you have to interview him?
Holy!
I did. I wish I could pull up a picture on my phone or something. I actually took a picture of Brett and his wife and his family in their car. They were in a car for the parade. And I caught him at the beginning of the parade, and he wouldn't have passed the breathalyzer at the beginning of the parade.
Wow.
That's awesome.
I know. So then if you got the beginning of him and he couldn't pass it, and we saw the end result at the parade, like, I still can't get mad at him. I understand. And he said, even though he didn't win his first ring, with the Blues, still, he's always going to be a Blue to us. Yeah. That was just amazing. Like I said, when I saw on the national sports networks of Brett Hull, I'm like, people don't understand how long it took and why he's that way, but you couldn't be mad. And like, as long as he wasn't behind the wheel, No. It was just, it's funny, but it just goes to show how the city just celebrated so much and how excited he was.
Yeah. No, that We Went Blues was something else. And I think my buddy Martin Kilcoyne, Channel 2, asked him a couple nights ago. He said, Brett, did you think about saying that before you went up there? And when I say this, I'm not talking about Marty, but I don't think Brett thinks about anything that he says before he says it. So I think that We Went Blues was a product of the moment, the excitement, and the blood alcohol content.
And I'm happy it happened.
Yeah.
I had a question before I talked about, I guess, Tarasenko-ish type stuff, but my husband brought this one up, and I agree with him. Do you see Ott being a coach sometime soon for a different team in the league?
Yeah, I think it's a possibility. He's great. Gosh, who would have ever thought that pesky Steve Ott, agitator Steve Ott, would be drawing up offensive plays in the last minute of a game? But he's just a great hockey mind, and he gets it. He gets players. He gets everything about the job, I think. And so I do think that Steve Ott's going to get consideration. His name's already popped up around the league on some bigger list. And so it might not happen in the next year or next 2 years, but I think Steve Ott will be a head coach in the league someday.
Yeah, I think he's really good at his job, and I loved him as he was kind of like that Pat Maroon before Pat Maroon was here with us.
Yeah.
Next, so this is so Bozak, Tarasenko, and the Islanders. Do those three go hand in hand? Do you think? I know I saw something that you put on Twitter, or I saw someone tweet something that you mentioned the Islanders earlier, but I know they were talking about maybe re-signing Palmieri and Cizikas, and then mentioned Parise, but that hasn't happened yet, and so. Is it maybe there's something going on with the Islanders and the Blues? Obviously, you can't say that, but and then that leads into Bozak too, because I think Bozak wants to stay here.
Yeah, I get in trouble sometimes because my 8-year-old son will take my phone and I'll say, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Oh, I just tweeted something about the Islanders or something." No, I'm joking. I say, "Hey, you can't do that. I got to delete that." But no, this is dragged on longer than I thought it would with Tarasenko. I thought that he'd probably be moved by now. I do know that, some teams are worried about the shoulder, worried about what kind of player person they're going to get. Then you have the Blues perspective. They don't want to give him away and pay, half of his salary. So, I've heard that the Blues aren't interested in retaining much or if any of the salary. And so, here we are a month before training camp, and he's still with the St. Louis Blues. If you held my hand to the fire, I still think that he's going to get moved before the start of the season. I don't know how you can bring him back. I realize Doug Armstrong can. He has the power here. But, it's just, where do you play him? Are you going to play him above the guys you just brought in, Saad and Buchnevich? And, are you going to play him in the third line, no power play? And is he going to be happy and be a disruption at that point? And if he's not playing a lot, how does he put up stats to drive up his value? It just doesn't seem to make a ton of sense. So I think they're going to have to move him at some point. I think Tyler Bozak's future with the Blues is tied to what happens, if they can move Tarasenko and clear some cap space. I think that allows them to re-sign Bozak. But at the moment, they've only got about $2.2 million in cap space. They still need to sign Robert Thomas. He's going to take up all of that, if not a little bit more. And then, if they can't get Tarasenko moved, then, I don't know what Bozak does. Maybe he's got some other options, but right now he's skating in St. Louis and hoping to re-sign with the Blues.
Well, I'm going to need Tyler Bozak to stay because I love his wife, Molly.
Yeah.
She just sends off so many positive vibes. So I don't know if I want Molly to stay here or Tyler, but I just want the Bozaks in St. Louis. But,
she makes the Molly margaritas.
Yes. But I guess, my only question, I know we asked Alex Ferrario this a couple weeks ago, but about Tarasenko is, do you think him staying here, or the possibility of him staying here, it's going to bad chemistry on the team? Because of everything that's been said and how it's kind of happened up to this point.
Yeah, and I think both sides are ready to move on. I think we might have been at that point last season. I've said this a few times on the radio that even though Tarasenko is the one who asked for the trade, I think the Blues might have explored it this summer anyway. I think it was probably to that point. One thing I've learned in 20 years of being in an NHL locker room is they're all aware that it's a business and they're ready to adapt and adjust with whatever comes their way. So if Vladimir Tarasenko is in a Blues uniform opening night, people have asked me for the past couple of weeks, how do Shen and O'Reilly and those guys react? The way they react is professionally. He's a teammate, and you get him the puck, he passed the puck back, and you go about your business. Does that mean everything's hunky-dory? No, but I think the average person who, doesn't go in the locker room or, isn't behind the scenes all that often doesn't realize that stuff happens all the time. It just does. You could write a book on the stuff that, never makes it to print or the airwaves. And I'm not trying to do a Maury Povich show here. I'm just saying they show up and they do their thing. And if there's a teammate that maybe it's not their favorite, you still got to do your thing. And yes, it can become a disruption. I do think in this situation, if Tarasenko is still part of the team, it could definitely be a disruption. My question, guys, is, the sources that I talked to for the story basically called out the Blues doctors. Well, guess what? You go out in the first period and get hurt, and you go back to the locker room, the training table, guess who's coming to see you? Those doctors that you rip. So I just don't know how that this is going to work, and that's why, could he be here on opening night? Yeah, but if I had to bet, I'd say that he's gone by then.
And Bunny, you had a question earlier?
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Maybe I missed the memo. What made Tarasenko want to get divorced from the Blues? What was the turning point to where he's like, yeah, I want to be gone, trade me? What happened?
Yeah, I think it's a couple things. So he had 2 shoulder injuries that required surgery. The Blues doctors did the first 2 surgeries. He, through the people that I spoke to, they told me that he doesn't believe the surgeries were handled correctly. Look, I'm not here to say they were or they aren't. I'm not a doctor. I have no idea if they were or not. All I know is that, his camp claims that the surgeries weren't done right, and so therefore he had to go back and get a 3rd surgery. And on top of that, the people that I talked to said that there was a lot of pressure on Vladdy. Hey, you're not playing well. His counterpoint was, yeah, because you guys screwed up my shoulder. And they'd say, no, we didn't, but you're not playing well. You got to get better. And all that led to a lack of trust, I think, from Tarasenko's side of things in terms of, being a St. Louis Blue and continuing to play for the organization, which then led to him saying, you know what, it'd just be best if I left.
And my thing about Tarasenko is, where in his right mind did he feel he was deserving of being the captain of the Blues?
Yeah, it's a great question. I try to shoot straight. I admire Tarasenko, the player, and the ceiling that he has to be one of the better players in the NHL. That doesn't always translate to great leadership. If Vladdy were sitting in the room here, I would tell him that, you just have to be there all the time, and you have to stand up and be accounted for in a lot of different situations, and you have to talk to the media after a big loss. And, I think he's been good at times. I just don't know that he would be the best person for that. And I think that Ryan O'Reilly has shown that he is that guy. And so to me, I said it when they made the announcement that Ryan O'Reilly was going to be the captain. He was the best fit for it. And, Vladdy, you could sit here and say that he was upset because he's passionate about the organization and passionate about the team and that role. And that's why, he came out with some negative comments, upset that he didn't get named the captain. But to me, I think most people who look at the situation say that the right choice was made.
Yeah, I think ROR was the perfect choice for the job. He just looks like a captain. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but he just looks like he fits the part. So I'm happy he's on our team, obviously.
And then plus it validates the reason why Tarasenko was not chosen as the captain. Because look at his actions ever since then. Like, you don't want to have a captain. You don't want to have someone like him represent your team like a captain like that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I feel, and I told Joe this a while back, I kind of put Tarasenko and Carlos Martinez from the Cardinals in the same boat. They're kind of similar. Very talented guys. Could easily have been better than what they have shown. Like Carlos Martinez, they used to call him Baby Pedro. Tarasenko kind of reminds me of that Fedorov, kind of guy. Just really could be a dominant guy on the wing, but it is something here that's stopping you from being better than what you have shown. And then your attitudes. Both of them have crazy attitudes if some don't go their way. And then they're both injury prone. So it's like, how can we really depend on y'all guys to be more than what y'all have shown? And you want to have a better role. Like Martinez want to be an ace of the staff, and Tarasenko wants to be the captain. But you have to show those intangibles to be considered for those type of roles. And that's just my point of view in regards to both those guys.
Yeah. And I'll ask Joe this. How can you not give the C to the guy on the team who uses Vaseline in his hair?
My husband knows Ryan O'Reilly's on my list. He's he's very attractive too.
Yeah. So no, I did. I did. I talked to some guys in the locker room, and I said, "Who's got the best hair product?" And they said, "Well, it depends if you call Vaseline hair product, because that's what O'Reilly uses."
Uh-oh. B, watch out! Watch out! You got competition, B.
Brendan's B's got a mullet going right now, so that's what I'm dealing with.
That's what's up. How crazy of a time was it during Mike Keenan's career?
Yeah, I was I was just like a Cub reporter at that time, so I was just going in the locker room, getting quotes, and then running the quotes up to the writer who was writing the story. So, we're talking, I can't really speak to how crazy it was. I do remember one particular story, real quick one, is, how Brett Hull, he just had everybody around his locker. So, if he's holding court, there's 30 people standing around him with microphones. And so I was one of those people. And I do remember somebody asking Brett Hull, "Hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that?" And he took his head and he did one of these. He nodded towards Mike Keenan's office and he goes, "I don't know. Why don't you just go talk to that idiot in there and ask him that question."
Gosh.
And at the time I'm covering high school sports, and obviously the kids weren't calling their coaches an idiot, so it was pretty eye-opening to me. But yeah, that was like an everyday occurrence. So if that answers your question in terms of how crazy it was, that was one day on the Brett Hull Mike Keenan front, and pretty eye-opening for me to see as a young Cub reporter.
Who's say not on this current roster, but years before, who's like your favorite Blues player to cover?
Yeah, a bunch of them. It's tough. I want to put together a list, but it would be like 20 or 30 deep. It really would. Barrett Jackman is a favorite. just a heart and soul guy. There's a personality here in St. Louis. I don't know if it's a love him or hate him type situation, but Cam Jansen, he's something else. Chris Mason, a goalie you guys probably familiar with. He was always great to deal with. David Backus, Alex Petrangelo, just a lot of these guys. And, I don't want to say that hockey's different because, hey, look, they're professional athletes and there's egos and, there's guys with entourage and stuff like that. But to me, hockey is a little bit different in terms of, I don't think these guys were put on a pedestal their entire life, which I kind of encountered that a little bit with baseball and football. And, I think that for the most part, these are, down-to-earth guys, and sure, not all of them, but I've had really good success dealing with these guys on a personal level. And so, a lot of guys that I just mentioned to you are people who, even if they weren't hockey players, they'd be guys that you could see yourself drinking a beer with.
And once again, I'm sorry. Once again, this is the Platform Sports Talk Show, your Wednesday night sports delight. I am your boy Smooth, along with
Bunny
and Jobo.
And we have special guests,
Jeremy Rutherford. Thanks for having me, guys. This is fun stuff, and I appreciate you having me. And I have to prove to my kids that I was on your podcast. I'll have to show them later.
There we go. Yeah,
cool.
As soon as the stream ends, it will be archived on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, so everyone can share it. Like you missed them, you can watch it right now because it ain't going anywhere. Joe, back on you.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say that us as just fans of sports in general, we, people might have been mad at Alex Petrangelo for leaving what seemed like for more money and all that other stuff. But then you have, reporters like you that have the stories about the miscarriage and everything. And it just, I don't know, it makes me personally kind of feel for these guys a little bit more. And like you said, like, I feel like hockey players are a little bit different than, say, baseball players, football players. But yeah, it's just like, writers like you, it makes me actually realize kind of what these athletes go through and stuff.
Yeah, you try to. And, one thing I'll say here, piggyback on that is, look, I'm never going to win this argument. I realize it. I go to barbecues and, go to family get-togethers, birthdays and stuff like that. And, they'll say, hey, so-and-so played horribly last night. And I'll say, okay, yeah, you're right. Yeah, it wasn't a real good game for that guy. But you might know that he lost his grandpa the night before. Or, we don't have to keep, bringing up people passing away. But, or the team didn't get in until 4:30 in the morning, because there was a mechanical issue with the plane. And again, no excuse. They got to go out on the ice and play hard. But there's just so many things I think that happen behind the scenes. And a lot of times I'll get, they make millions of dollars. There's no excuses. And I get it. All I can tell you, and again, I got to stress, I'm never, ever, ever going to win this argument. Look, I got to write critical stuff about them, just like people say at those barbecues. I got to do report cards at the end of the year and give some guys an F. But all I'm saying is that they put the pants on one leg at a time. They got feelings. There's emotions. They know when they're not playing well. And none of us, including myself, who's there on an everyday basis, know what they're going through. I didn't know that Alex Petrangelo, they had a miscarriage and that's what they were dealing with. And so, I guess it's up to each fan, each reader, each listener on how much slack you want to cut them. I just have a very, very, very tough time going along with the argument that the guy makes $6 million, so therefore he should be superhuman. It's just tough for me to comprehend.
Yeah, I think with all the, say, just for example, Simone Biles stuff that happened, it's...
Yeah, good point.
These, like you said, these people are humans, they put pants on just like we do and all, everything that we can say about it. It's, yeah, they get paid millions of dollars, but again, like, they still go through stuff like me and you go through.
Yeah. At the end of the day, they got to perform, and that's all there is to it. Look, they're the ones who chose the path. They're the ones that signed the contract. They know the expectations that come with that $6 million. But just like any of us, there's going to be a day here, a day there that it's just not working. And but it's part of being a fan. I get it. I totally get it. But I think being behind the scenes, you see some of that stuff, and it kind of opens your eyes to maybe why some things are happening the way they are.
And keeping on the topic of what people or players are going through, we know that over the last 2 years, this pandemic has been crazy for all teams involved. Everyone had to go through the same process, especially the teams who went to the bubble for the playoffs. But it seems like the pandemic really affected the Blues more so than a lot of other teams. Why do you feel that was the case?
It's a great question. I've tried to answer it myself 1,000 times. I've tried to write articles about it. All I can give you is what the players have told me, and that's that you win the Stanley Cup, and then the following year, you're one of the best teams in the league at the time of the shutdown because of the pandemic. And then when you reconvene several weeks later in an arena with no fans and just complete different circumstances, some teams were able to play and it unfazed them, and some, like the Blues, just weren't. And I just think that I talked to Jaden Schwartz and asked him that question a couple days ago, Smoooth, and he said we just lost our rhythm. We just lost everything that we had. We couldn't regain it. So you're right. I mean, here's a situation where there's no excuses. Look, Tampa went on and won the Cup twice and played in the bubble and did all the right things and played good hockey. So it was definitely possible to play through that. And the Blues didn't do it. So in this circumstance, I'm not going to make any excuses because they weren't the team that we saw the year before. And, it was on roster, on paper, it was a lot of the same guys. So I can only go by what the players told me, and that's that they just couldn't find the rhythm again once they got into the pandemic mode.
I just have one last question for myself. Is it hard being a writer for a team that you grew up loving?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. When the Blues were in the Stanley Cup playing Boston, I wrote a column for The Athletic, and it was, St. Louis writer, covering the Stanley Cup type article. And the answer I tried to give is that I'm not rooting for the Blues to win. Yeah, I grew up here. Yeah, I was a Blues fan before I started covering them. But you really do have to cut the cord. And some people think that's impossible. There's no way you cut the cord. But I'll tell you this. I'm not going to name the restaurant, but there was a restaurant that I used to go to when I was younger that I thought was the absolute best. And then I got a job there, and I saw the salmon might get tossed on the floor, and then it goes in the oven and stuff like that. And so my analogy here is, when you see that it's a business, it doesn't matter if it's the Blues or it's the Boston Bruins or whatever. This story that I'm telling isn't about the St. Louis Blues. It's just that you see firsthand every single day that it's a business. This player was giving you his all, and the general manager just cut him or traded him. And so I think people don't believe it, but you lose that fandom. You really do. And so it's my job, like I said earlier in the show, guys, to write the story and provide the information. And what I was happy for was that the community and the 70-year-old who's been watching the Blues for 50 years come so close and not win a Stanley Cup, and now he's able to cry and hug his son and mom and daughter and stuff like that. That's who I was happy for. And so to answer your question, I'm not going to lie, it is tough at times. You know what this team means to the community and to all these people, and here you are, writing a story that Tarasenko's asking for a trade, and now you let the cat out of the bag, and now it's going to be harder for the Blues to potentially trade him because this is known, and it is tough sometimes when you have to do those types of stories. But at the end of the day, I always have to go to bed and tell myself, hey, did I do my job today for The Athletic or at the time for the Post Dispatch? And if you can answer the question yes, and I didn't fanboy out because I interviewed this popular player, then that's what you get paid to do. So, there's probably times that I don't know that it's hard, but I think over time I've just learned to grow with the job and be the best professional writer I can be.
Dope. And how excited should Blues fans be for this upcoming season?
Yeah, I think they're going to be, top 4 or so in the Central in that conversation. I think there's obviously better teams, Colorado, Vegas. Minnesota. Yeah, Vegas. I think Minnesota is on the rise a little bit. I'm just a little bit worried about the defense. I think they made some good moves at forward. I think they had to mix things up there. But this is the same defense coming back last year, minus Vince Dunn. And they allowed a lot of goals last year, the most per game since 2006. And, Doug Armstrong addressed the forwards, but didn't do a ton with the D. So I think that's probably the biggest question mark. But, I don't want to sound like I'm repeating myself every year, but I think the Blues have been a strong contender for the past 10 plus years. Doug Armstrong has one of the best winning percentages as a GM, not only in the organization, but in the league since he's been at the helm. And so I go into every season thinking that the Blues got a pretty good team.
Joe mentioned this during the season last year, and I was like, wow.
I already know what you're going to
say. Yep. then she brought it up to Alex Ferrario, who we had on a few weeks ago. So I'm going to go ahead and ask you, do you feel that Jordan Binnington is overrated as a goalie?
No, I don't think so. And, I'll try to back it up here is, is he the flashy, holy smokes, where did this guy come from, making save after save goalie from 2019? He's not. His numbers aren't like they were that first year. But, doing my job, I've got to, write articles where I do my homework. And, a couple months ago, I went back and looked up the numbers since that Stanley Cup run, and Jordan Binnington is top 5 in every single category: goals against, save percentage, wins, everything. Top 5. I mean, we're talking top 5. And, I'm not sitting here, trying to honk his horn. All I'm saying is that, when you consider the goalies in the league today, there's a couple that are super elite, like a Vasilevsky in Tampa Bay. Carey Price showed this year who he is. So there's a couple that are just off the charts. But I think Jordan Binnington, look, the Blues had problems in goal for so many years. And now you got a guy who's been, he's won a Stanley Cup, and then he's been top 5 major categories since then. I don't know how you could call that overrated.
So over the last, who would you say currently would be the GOAT of Blues goalies to this day?
That's a good one. According to wins, it's Mike Liut. In terms of pizzazz, it's probably Curtis Joseph, right? You had Hall of Famers like Grant Fuhr and Marty Brodeur, those types of guys. But in terms of most popular, probably Curtis Joseph. So I don't know what you guys think on that.
I was thinking Cujo as well. That was my first pick, Cujo.
Yeah.
I got a Chris Osgood signed hat for Christmas one year, and that was always kind of made me a big fan of him.
Yeah. Well, hey, and you guys were talking about, being a fan. So I was a fan, years ago. And when I lived with my grandparents, play along with me here for 1 second. I had every inch of my room, wall, ceiling, and everything covered in posters, whatever sport, Michael Jordan, didn't matter. And I kept looking at my mini blinds, and I'm like, I don't have anything covering my mini blinds, and that's just bothering me. So I took a poster of Curtis Joseph and cut it with scissors in long strips and taped each strip to a mini blind. And then when you flipped it, obviously you'd have a poster put together, and then if you open them up, you have the sunlight. So a couple years ago, I'm down at where does Slu Billikens play? What's that called? Chaffetz, yeah. And Cujo is there doing a radio show, and he walks outside the building, and he's looking for a place to get an Uber. And I said, I don't know if you're going to catch an Uber here, but I said, I'm with the media. I watched you growing up. If you want to ride, he said, yeah, can you take me down to the hotel? So I told him that story about cutting them up in strips and putting them on the mini blinds. And he said, so I saved you from the sunlight, huh? Yeah. So that was his biggest save. He saved me from the sunlight. So now you guys are going to say, well, I thought you said you weren't a fan.
Right. So my last question for you, once again, we had Alex Ferrario on, and we asked him about who was some of his influences and people who he appreciated as he got better in his career, and your name came up and he said that you were so open to, showing him the way and help him out, introduce him to certain people as he was getting his career started. So how does it feel being on the other end of helping others to get to a goal that they've always wanted to achieve?
Alex, who? I'm joking.
Good one. Yeah, dear.
No, I'm kidding. No, I've known Alex for a long time, and here's what I'll say is, listen, we've all had young people come up and ask for help, all of us, and I'm always willing to give it. But let's just use the round number of 100. I've had 100 young kids come up, and 98 of them want you to get them a blues pass, and they want to be in the locker room. I've had one or two out of that 100, Alex being one of them, who he didn't rely on you to make things happen for him. He would come to me on a week-by-week basis and say, hey, I asked Lindenwood if they'd let me announce their men's basketball game. Hey, I did this, I did this. Hey, next week they're going to let me do this. And he was, like I said, make your own breaks. Make your own breaks. I tried to help Alex get his foot in with being on the radio, and if it helped, it helped. But there's nothing I could do that got him to where he is today, doing ESPN and pre and post game with the St. Louis Blues. If he didn't do it himself, he wouldn't be where he's at. And that's just using Alex as an example. There's a bunch of people out there the same boat. So make your breaks. Alex did it. Everybody can do it. And, if you're in my position and there's a young kid coming for help, if I don't sense after a month or two that they're trying to help themselves, then I don't give up, but I just kind of, okay, well, you could be doing something here to help yourself. And Alex was definitely somebody who did that.
Nice. Any more questions, ladies?
Just an easy one. Do you have a favorite player that wasn't a Blue when you were growing up? As a kid, I love Felix Potman for some reason. I don't know why. I collect his cards. So did you have someone like that?
Yeah, I'm sure. Not off the top of my head. I know that Smoooth brought up Federhoff earlier. And when I was 18, 19, they sent me in the Detroit locker room, and I went in there, and I'll never forget, I got my recorder up by his mouth where he's talking and doing the interview, and I'm looking down, and these pair of shoes must have been about $4,000.
Jesus.
And I could see my reflection in the shoe, and it was like glass. And so anyway, I was like, man, this is what it's really like with these guys. This is so crazy. So he was a guy that I thought was a real good player. But no, I mean, going back to the very beginning of this interview, guys, is I grew up, a Cardinals fan. And so, Vince Coleman, Ozzie Smith, Willie McGee, I got their picture downstairs. One time I went up to the YMCA and there was a pickup game and Vince was playing. And I was like, well, this is a game I don't need to be a part of. I can't catch up with this guy. But, just Cardinal baseball growing up and a little bit of Blues, but no real names other than those that come to mind.
Okay.
My important question for you, I asked it to other media personnel as well. Do you think St. Louis will ever get an NBA team?
Oh, that would be cool, wouldn't it? Yeah. Yeah, it really would. I don't know. Did you guys correct me on this? I thought I heard that if St. Louis had all 4 professional sports, and that's when the Rams were here, obviously, so they had 3, and people were talking about adding a 4th one, it'd be the smallest city to have all 4. I don't know if that's accurate. So, are the dollars there? Can people afford it? I would think that they could. I follow the NBA. I've only been to a couple games in my life, but man, it's something. I went to a San Antonio game. The Blues had a minor league team down there, and on an off night, I went and saw the Spurs, and I can't believe the players can actually hear each other talk. It sounded like a club out on the
concert.
Court.
Yeah, music all throughout the possessions. They just going back and forth, hearing music.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. I was like, how can these guys? It literally sounds like I'm at a club. Now I'm pretending like I go to clubs all the time with you guys.
The puck drops in hockey, the music stops.
Yeah, it stops right away. It stops right away. But no, it'd be awesome to get an NBA team. I mean, just based on the Rams leaving, does that open up some dollars? And I realize, different different sports, there's different fans. So I know there's a bunch of, I've lived here, I told you my whole life, a bunch of NBA fans out there. So I feel like St. Louis would support it. I feel like St. Louis can do anything.
And how great is it to have MLS in the Lou coming?
Yeah, that's going to be cool. And look, I've never been a big soccer fan. I only run when the cops are chasing me.
Oh, wow.
Hey, you know what? Speaking of which, get at Anthony Stalter. He got a story to tell about his days when he was
yeah.
he was doing what was it called again, Bunny?
The repo man for Enterprise.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't even know that was a position. I'm like, what? He had us bugging up about that story.
Yeah. But I tell you what, I get a bunch of friends in Kansas City that go to the Kansas City MLS team games, and they say it's awesome. I hope that I can go to some games down there. The stadium looks awesome. You know, even though it would probably take me a while to figure out, you know, all the intricacies of soccer, I would love doing it. So, Smoooth, if you got any tickets.
I was going to ask you. If you
say, we should be asking you that for the past.
Right. You don't want to have access to what we would.
Yeah.
Please do share. Please, JR.
So, with that being said, I think I asked Benjamin Hockman this a while back, but even as a journalist or writer, do you still have to pay your way to go to games and go out, you know, when you go out of town or travel and stuff like that?
It's different for the different outlets, but no, the company pays for everything. If they're going to ask you to go on the road, you know, they pay the airfare and the hotel, and you know, you get some meal expenses and stuff like that. But different outlets do it different. I've been at places where you had their company credit card and you just charge everything to them, and then I've had it. Yeah, swipe, and then I've had it where I use my credit card and then they reimburse you later, and that's when I don't swipe.
Right. So I will hold off on that steak tonight.
Yeah, I don't need that Red Bull.
So now what Valley Sports does.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
Silent crickets.
Exactly.
2 beers. Nope, just give me a Sprite. I'm good.
Yeah.
Well, Jeremy, it's definitely been a pleasure having you on the show.
No, thank you guys. This is terrific. It's fun. It's awesome what you do here. Just shoot the bull for a little bit. And, you know, sorry to bore you with all those stories about getting into media. You know, I don't know, you know, that people who aren't in media get excited about it. But, you know, like I said earlier, it kind of applies to all industries.
Mm-hmm.
You know, work hard. Don't get too far ahead of yourself and handle yourself like a pro every day if you can. And I think it'll work out for you.
I mean, I'm a true believer, and I know Bunny and Joe can attest to it, and also our other co-host Stan. But you know, this show here has came a long way for us to be able to have guys like yourself, you know, on the show. You know, that speaks volumes, and you know, we hope to, you know, have you on again in the nearby future, and you know, feel free to spread the word to other people. That would be excellent for our show. We'd love to have them on, get them booked, and if you don't mind, just stay on real quick for our post-show talk. Everybody else, Bunny, once again, great job. Joe, wonderful job with the intro and the questions tonight. Stan, we look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks. To everyone who has been tuning in for this show, thank you very much. Once again, we have definitely enjoyed ourselves. The platform Sports Talk Show, when it's about sports,
it becomes whose business? Ours? It sure does. It's our business. Mm-hmm.
And business continues to pick up. Make sure you see on the screen. Tune in next week. Ladies' Night is back every first Wednesday of the month. It goes down. So definitely support the ladies. Bunny is hosting. She does her thing. Also, shouts out to Sharita Washington. She did a wonderful job this past Sunday hosting our SummerSlam recap show that we had. It is on our page on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. You can watch everything. Her along with Brian Turner. She did a wonderful job. They both did a wonderful job. So shouts out to them. Shouts out to, once again, everyone watching for the very first time. Give us that like, that follow. Show us love everywhere on them social media sites. And with that being said, everyone, where is that button at? There we go. So, with that being said, we out, ride. We out.